Chapter 175. Other than Dawnfall Peak, the back mountain of Fluorescent Wind Sect's main peak was the place with the densest amount of divine energy. The people who lived on the peak were the hall masters of the various halls, and a small number of elite disciples. Zhu Yao arrived here early in the morning. However, she did not head towards the sect master's cave residence at the mountain peak. Instead, she headed straight to another cave residence in the middle. That place was covered in spiritual plants, the flowers red and willows green, the arrangement extremely elegant, the immortal energy not much inferior to that of Sunset Peak. As Zhu Yao walked, she looked around, until she stopped in front of a large jade door. A restriction was placed on the door. Xian wishes to meet Senior Martial Brother Su. Zhu Yao shouted. A moment later, the jade door opened. Before she could rush in, a man in a green robe greeted her. His face was full of joy, as if he was very surprised by her visit. Junior Sister Yin? Zhu Yao smiled. I have never been to Senior Martial Brother's cave residence before, so I came to take a look on the way. I'm not disturbing Senior Martial Brother, am I? Of course not. Su Nuyen had a warm smile on his face as he said slowly. For Junior Martial Sister to be able to come to my place, I naturally couldn't ask for more. Even if I have to go into closed-door training, I still have to meet Junior Martial Sister. He was really good with words, directly pointing out that in order to see her, he gave up his seclusion. Unfortunately, she did not feel guilty at all. Junior Martial Sister, please. Su Nuyen welcomed her to the living room, and personally poured a cup of tea for her. Junior Sister, why did you think of visiting Senior Brother? Zhu Yao put down the teacup in her hands. My mother told me that Senior Martial Brother is my father's personal succeeding disciple. He has always been easygoing, and he's also the most talented disciple in the sect. She told me to learn more from Senior Martial Brother. You flatter me, mistress. Su Nuyen said modestly. However, the gaze he was looking at Zhu Yao with began to drift away, and his face was filled with deep emotions. Junior Martial Sister Yin is able to understand me. This Senior Martial Brother is already very satisfied. In the past, Xian misunderstood you. Zhu Yao walked down the stairs. However, I've just woken up, so everyone here is a stranger to me, including Senior Martial Brother. That's why Mother agreed to cancel the dual cultivation ceremony. Su Nua's eyes darkened. I understand, Junior Apprentice Sister. Moreover, Zhu Yao immediately interrupted his words. That day that Miss Mo spoke with certainty. Senior Martial Brother is her husband, and she is your wife. Although my cultivation level isn't high, I'm still my mother's daughter. No matter what, I won't be able to marry a married man. Junior Martial Sister, you've misunderstood me. I'm not. Su Nuyen explained anxiously as usual. All right. Zhu Yao once again interrupted his words. That day, she seemed to have taken out your love token as proof. Zhu Yao immediately took out a hairpin. Back then I was curious, so I picked it up and looked at it. I realized that the word Xian was even engraved on it. Mother said it looked like Senior Martial Brother's handwriting. Su Nuyen's face paled, as he suddenly stood up and said with a face full of anger, that Miss Mo is truly cunning, to actually use such a method to frame me. No wonder you have such a deep misunderstanding of me. Junior Sister has never given anyone a hairpin. Don't believe the words of evil people. You really don't recognize this hairpin? I Su Nuyen swear to the heavens. Su Nuyen's face was solemn. Okay. Zhu Yao immediately kept the hairpin. Without leaving a trace, she touched her waist, and pressed down on the faintly swaying jade pendant. Just treat it as me thinking too much. Only then did Su Nuyen's agitated emotions calm down a little. He continued to sit down, and once again looked at her with a drowning gaze. Junior Martial Sister, you have just woken up, and you still don't understand your Senior Martial Brother. Not willing. I can understand as well. Senior Martial Brother will always be waiting for you. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched towards this face of his that resembled a Casanova. She was really a little cold. Ho, actually there's something I don't understand. The number of times I've met Senior Martial Brother can be counted with my fingers. Why would you? If he were to say that he fell in love with her after meeting her a few times, she wouldn't believe it even if she were to be beaten to death. Su Nuyen's expression sank even deeper, and faintly, it carried an unfathomable melancholy. To you we've only met a few times, but to Senior Marshal Brother, he has already waited for 1,000 years. What did he mean? Su Nuyen sighed. That focused gaze of his made her hair stand on end. Junior Marshal's sister might not know, but 1,000 years ago, on the very first day I entered the sect, Master had brought me to Dawnfall Peak to meet Junior Marshal's sister. That was the first time I met you. I'm not afraid of Junior Marshal's sister laughing at me, but, from that day onwards, you already had a place in my heart. 1,000 years ago? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Yes. Su Nuyen, however, still had an affectionate look. Back then, I had just ascended not long ago. Zhu Yao sank into silence. She subconsciously wanted to look at the jade pendant on her waist, but she forcefully endured it. She could only use the action of drinking tea to press down on the jade pendant that was about to pop out from her waist. Since he had just ascended, then it meant that he had just left Emociensian not long ago, right? So, Junior Marshal's sister, you can choose not to believe me. Su Nuyen, however, still continued his affectionate confession. But please do not doubt my feelings for you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have proposed to my master's wife to marry you when you were still unconscious. Marrying me is your intention. Zhu Yao caught on to the main point. Yes. Su Nuyen nodded heavily. His face was filled with determination. Back then, Junior Marshal's sister was still unconscious. Even if you were to never wake up, I wouldn't care either, as long as I can be by your side for the rest of my life. Junior Marshal's sister. The more he spoke, the more agitated he became, and just as his claws were about to reach over, Zhu Yao simply felt nauseous. With a whoosh, she stood up. I forgot to turn off the gas. I'll be heading back first. As expected, a shameless person was invincible under the heavens. Junior Marshal's sister. Su Nuyen had a dumbfounded look. Why did she have to leave while chatting nicely? And what's gas? Zhu Yao pressed onto her waist as she hurriedly walked out. Just as she reached the door, she stopped. Oh right. I forgot to ask. Why did my mother suddenly ask you to go into closed-door training? Su Nuyen's expression stiffened, and a moment later he said, It's my fault. I wasn't willing to be framed by that Mo woman, and caused Junior Marshal's sister to misunderstand me. That's why Shermu got angry. He sent people to kill his wife, and he even wanted to say that it was for her. He really had enough. Zhu Yao did not stay any longer, as she flew straight back to Dawnfall Peak on her flying sword. She pulled out the jade pendant at her waist, and with a flash of white light, a black-clothed woman appeared in front of her. You heard everything clearly earlier? Zhu Yao looked at her. Do you still think that it's because of me? Emociensian did not reply. On her delicate and pretty face, there was no longer that ruthless aura from yesterday. Instead, she looked a little listless. Why? Why did he do this to me? He clearly swore that he would never let me down. As though she could not endure this blow, her legs weakened, as she squatted on the ground and began to cry bitterly. I clearly trusted him so much. No matter how difficult it was in the divine realm, I had always trusted him. She hugged her legs tightly and curled herself into a ball, as her tears flowed down. He sent me a message saying that he had his own difficulties, which was why he did not acknowledge me. I believed him. In fact, the moment I received the news of him being locked up, I immediately rushed over. But, why? Zhu Yao sighed, and squatted down next to her. This girl was so stupid that she could not help but want to scold her to death. He sent you a message after the major martial practitioner ceremony? Emociensian nodded with a choked voice. It was no wonder. She had clearly severed ties with Su Nuyen back then, yet she suddenly returned to kill her. Su Nuyen sure had good methods. On one hand, he circled around her in fluorescent wind sect, while on the other hand, he did not let go of Emociensian. You believed everything he said. Serves you right for falling for it. Emociensian did not reply. A moment later she choked out. He's my husband. How could she not believe him? How long have you known him? More than 10,000 years. 10,000 years and you're still unable to see a person clearly. Zhu Yao glanced at her. Are you stupid? Xianxian cried even more miserably. Stop crying. Zhu Yao was a little annoyed. She was really not good at comforting people. Isn't it just a breakup? It's not too late to wake up now. There are plenty of good men in this world, waiting for you to tease them. Xianxian did not react. She simply hugged her legs tightly. As she cried, she lightly trembled, suppressing the feelings that she had already lost. Zhu Yao did not say anything else either. In any case, at a time like this, she most likely would not be able to hear anything. She could only accompany her and sit by the side. Who would have thought that the moment she cried, it would be like the Yellow River flooding, and could not be controlled in an instant. Zhu Yao's buttocks were already hurting from sitting, yet she was still crying loudly. Zhu Yao had no choice but to return to the house, pull Gooden out, and throw him over. Don't say that the boss did not help you. Now that she had broken up, hurry and take advantage of her perilous situation. Little girl Xianxian, what's wrong? Don't cry. As expected, Gooden knew what to do, as he anxiously circled around Xianxian. From the looks of it, you know that you've been played by a man, right? Tao Manfeng, who had unknowingly followed them out, coldly snorted. I've long said that man can't be relied on. Only you would believe his nonsense. Whatever he said about being helpless, it's all a lie. You don't have to persuade her either, she deserves it. Her mocking mode was fully activated. Why did she feel a little sour? Zhu Yao turned to look at Tao Manfeng, and felt that there was something wrong with this lady. Tao Manfeng felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by her, as she coldly snorted and no longer spoke. Since the matter has been cleared up, you people should hurry and leave Fluorescent Wind Sect. Zhu Yao immediately ordered them to leave. In the future, don't come and kill me for no reason. When these words fell, a hint of awkwardness flashed past the faces of the three. Here, catch. Zhu Yao threw the spatial jade towards Xianxian. You. Xianxian was startled, as she did not dare to believe that she would actually return the spatial jade to her. I don't care for it. Her master said that half of the spatial jade had been destroyed, and it was no longer the same as before. The divine energy was about the same as the one in Lightning Divine Hall as well. Furthermore, that was her previous avatar. To put it bluntly, it was her previous corpse. She did not want to carry it by her side every single day. Use your brain more when you encounter problems. Don't be silly. Xianxian held onto the divine jade in her hands, and said a moment later, "Thank you." Chapter 176. Zhu Yao turned around and returned to the house. A moment later, she sensed that the three people's presences had already left Fluorescent Wind Sect. You shouldn't have let them go. Yu Yan frowned, extremely disapproving of her actions. It doesn't matter. Zhu Yao sat on the bed. No matter how stupid Xianxian is, after today's incident, she will no longer take revenge on Fluorescent Wind Sect. That jade space. That jade is merely a tool. What's truly dangerous is the human heart. Zhu Yao explained. Xianxian offended Fluorescent Wind Sect that day, and now, she has been expelled from Advent Cloud Hall. Even if my mother doesn't pursue the matter, there's no guarantee that others won't target her. That jade is her life-saving artifact. If I take it away, she probably won't be able to live. Why don't we do her a favor? Yu Yan did not speak any further, though his frown deepened. However, when he recalled that the jade was his own disciple's body in the first place, and now, it was going to land in someone else's hands, he felt strangely displeased. As expected, that person called Gooden, he should have killed him in the very beginning. By the way, master. Zhu Yao suddenly recalled something. I feel a little strange, as though I can suddenly control fire. Before she could finish her sentence, there was a loud thud. The entire roof was suddenly set ablaze, instantly burning the roof clean, leaving ashes on her face. That's it. She pointed to the roof. Suddenly, she was more skilled at using fire spells than lightning spells. Yu Yan's expression sank. Such a fast fire-type mystic art was really rarely seen. When did you find out? He silently cast a water spell to extinguish the fire. Yesterday, when Xianxian ambushed me. In the beginning, she simply felt that the fire was a little intimate, as though it would not harm her at all. Yu Yan reached out his hand and held onto her wrist to check her pulse. After that, he sent a strand of his divine sense into her body to check, only to realize that everything was normal with his disciple. He had always known that his disciple had a heaven-defying affinity with lightning spiritual energy, but when did he become so intimate with the fire attribute? There are too many mysteries surrounding your body right now. I do not know the reason either. Yu Yan released his hand and stroked her head instead. Hallmaster has always been extremely clear about various bizarre matters. Tomorrow, I will make a trip back to Lightning Divine Hall. While you are in Fluorescent Wind Sect, do not act recklessly. Zhu Yao pulled down his hand that was ruining her hair. When she heard his words, she was startled for a moment. Master is leaving? Amen. Yu Yan took the opportunity to pull her. Just like last time, he interlocked his fingers. I'm not here. Be careful. Oh. Zhu Yao weakly responded. Don't worry, my mother is here. Although my current body has yet to officially begin cultivating, Emo Xianxian's cultivation level as a profound deity paragon is still unable to defeat me. No problem. No problem. Yu Yan blinked, as though he had suddenly thought of something. Sizing up the disciple in front of him, he suddenly had a strange thought. Yu Yao, what's your current cultivation level? Why did he suddenly ask this? Aren't I at the intermediate stage of the profound immortal realm? No, that's not right. I've changed my avatar, and I've never cultivated before. He's not even an Earth Immortal. As she spoke, she was also stunned. Earth Immortal? But how was she able to defeat Emo Xianxian? Could it be Yu Yao? Yu Yan's voice sank. I can't see through your cultivation. There were two situations where one's cultivation could not be seen through. Firstly, the other party did not have any cultivation in the first place. Secondly, the other party's cultivation level was many times higher than hers, hence she could not see through it. She had always thought that she was the first type. However, earlier, she had clearly beaten up Emo Xianxian, a profound deity, to the point where she could not retaliate at all. She basically did not look like she did not have any cultivation at all. If it was the second type, her master was already a high deity. In this divine realm, he belonged to the highest level. Yet he was still unable to see through her cultivation level. Then her cultivation level was even higher than a high deity's? This was simply unbelievable. It wasn't that she had never tested her own cultivation level. Her master was a high deity, and his divine sense could cover a large half of the divine realm continent. However, her divine sense could only see things within a radius of 10,000 kilometers. How could her cultivation level be higher than his? Wait a minute. A radius of 10,000 kilometers? Her range of movement seemed to be limited to a radius of 50 kilometers as well. Could it be because of this? Her master returned to Lightning Divine Hall on the second day. She could only wait for him to return to answer all the questions. Zhu Yao spent the majority of her time in Dawnfall Peak. Occasionally, she would visit her cheap mother's place. Yin Shi, however, did not mention Su Nuyan. Most probably, she had already begun to guard against him. Zhu Yao did not mind adding more eye drops. Su Nuyan's thoughts ran too deep, and he thought too much. Zhu Yao guessed that his final goal was to obtain Fluorescent Wind Sect. Though Emo Xianxian had already given up on him, it did not mean that he would not find other opportunities to make a comeback. Though Zhu Yao was not interested in such power struggles, Yin Shi was after all her mother. Naturally, she would not stand on the side of an outsider. Her cheap mother's investigation of Su Nuyan did not stop. Zhu Yao wondered if she had confirmed that Emo Xianxian's words were all true. In the past few days, even if she took the initiative to mention Su Nuyan, her tone would be filled with unconcealed anger. Initially, though he was the previous sect master's personal succeeding disciple, a large half of the sect's affairs had to go through his hands. Now, however, Yin Shi was slowly retracting it. If not for the sake of her cheap father, who had already entered the Lightning Divine Tower, Yin Shi would most likely have expelled him from Fluorescent Wind Sect. Zhu Yao instantly felt that the mission this time was unexpectedly easy. It seemed like Fluorescent Wind Sect completely did not have to fear being exterminated. However, at the last moment, she suddenly recalled something. Just who was the bug this time? No matter if it was Mo Xianxian or Su Nuyan, the two of them did not seem to have the word bug on their faces. In the beginning, she had thought that it was that piece of divine jade. However, when she carefully looked at it, the remaining half of the jade did have the word bu on it, but it definitely couldn't be considered as a bug. Could it be that the bug this time didn't affect the person? Just when Zhu Yao was completely puzzled, Su Nuyan came knocking on her door. It had been a while since they last met, yet he still had that elegant scumbag look. He completely did not have the dispirited look after being suppressed, and the way he looked at her still gave her goosebumps. Junior Marshall's sister, long time no see. Ho ho, fellow Taoist Su. Zhu Yao really did not want to bother with him. Junior Marshall's sister. Why are you calling me fellow Taoist again? Su Nuyan looked as though he did not have any temper. Earlier, didn't you already call me Senior Marshall brother? Why did you suddenly change your form of address? It was my mother who reminded me. I have already entered Lightning Divine Hall, so I'm not a disciple of Fluorescent Wind sect. Naturally, I can't address you as Senior Marshall's sister. I see. Su Nuyan was unexpectedly easy to talk to this time. Since that's the case, then I won't be courteous with Junior Marshall's sister, and will call you by your Taoist name. How about Yu Yao? These words were really hard to refute. Fellow Taoist Su, is there something you need from me? Su Nuyan did not mind her coldness in the slightest, as he smiled until his eyebrows could not be seen. Nothing much, it's just that seeing you stay on Dawnfall Peak every day, you will definitely feel stifled. Coincidentally, my master's wife has sent me to Cloudhold City, which is several dozen kilometers away from here, to settle a small matter, so I came to ask if you're willing to follow me. There's no need. Only a ghost would want to go out with a scumbag like you. It's best that I continue to cultivate here. Yu Yao sure is diligent. Su Nuyan continued. However, you have just woken up not too long ago, so you should be unfamiliar with everything in this world. Yet you're actually not curious about the outside world. That's quite rare. Zhu Yao's heart clenched for a moment. She seemed to be acting a little too calm. Though she was not worried that the matter of her turning into Een Xian would be exposed, and had even directly confessed to her cheap mother. Even though Een Shi had acknowledged her, it did not mean that others would not suspect her. As expected, a scumbag's schemes ran deep. That's the closest and most flourishing city to Fluorescent Wind sect. It won't take too long, and auspicious clouds are gathering there today. There should be people ascending from the lower realm, and it's a rare opportunity. Are you really not going to take a look? Su Nuyan continued. Alright, if she were to really reject him right away, with how scheming this person was, he might really suspect her. Furthermore, she was really a little curious. For someone like her who had snuck into the heavens, she was still interested in things like ascension. In the end, Zhu Yao still followed him. That Cloudhold City was only about 30 kilometers away from Fluorescent Wind sect, so she would not faint from being too far away like last time. This time, Su Nuyan had a mission. He was heading there to receive the deities who had just ascended to the higher realm, and persuade them to join Fluorescent Wind sect. Sending him, a gold deity, for a mission like this, it could be seen that Een Shi was really afraid of him. Before leaving, she went to Een Shi's place to greet her. Initially, she had wanted to have her cheap mother stop her. In the beginning, Een Shi was indeed a little dissatisfied, but after Su Nuyan said a few words, she actually agreed to it. She even joyfully contributed a divine sword as a transportation tool. Mother, am I really your biological daughter? Zhu Yao's plan went to waste, so she could only accept her fate and head on her way. Along the way, Su Nuyan did not act like how he usually did, persistently pulling her into a conversation, or expressing his heartlessness. Other than the way he looked at her, which still caused her hair to stand on end, he actually did not mention a single word about Mo Xianxian. Even if she intentionally brought it up, and wanted to mock him a little, he did not answer her due to his good temper, and simply let out a light laugh. Did Su Nuyan change his mind? Or was it because he was struck by Een Shi to the point where he had no choice but to give up? Such an abnormal Su Nuyan caused Zhu Yao to unavoidably raise her guard a little. God knows what he was planning, it was best to be a little more careful. They flew at an extremely slow pace. Zhu Yao intentionally made it seem like her divine arts were not strong, while Su Nuyen matched her speed the entire time, flying a step away from her. He followed her at a distance that was neither too far nor too close, and he did look rather gentlemanly. It seemed like Mo Xianxian's infatuation with him was not without reason. At the very least, he did a good job on the surface. Just like that, they dilly-dallied and flew for an hour. Just as they were about to reach their destination, they suddenly heard a familiar voice from below. "Return the rock spirit to me, otherwise, I will show you." Chapter 177. Wang Xuji. No, it was a mushroom. On one side was mushroom, while on the other side were familiar faces as well. They were the ever-present student Mo Xianxian, and the new flower protector, Gooden. Why are they fighting? Mushroom held the sword in his hand and furiously glared at the two people in front of him. "Brother Mushroom, you misunderstood. Boss is not with us." "I haven't seen Boss for a long time," Gooden explained anxiously. "Sophistry." Mushroom was enraged, his hair instantly turned red, and faintly stood up. She was clearly holding on to the rock spirit. "What did you guys do to her? Why did she return to her original form?" Original form? Gooden turned to look at Mo Xianxian's hand, and what she was grabbing onto was precisely that spatial divine jade. "This isn't it. Although Boss is a jade that has gained sentience, this is just a divine jade without any sentience. It's not her." "Nonsense." The mushroom grew even more furious. "I slept with rock spirit for so long. How could I possibly mistake her original form?" The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. "Who slept with you?" Fuck, this mushroom's words are still so unclear. Gooden was still trying his best to explain, and he even had Mo Xianxian stretch out her hand for him to see clearly. "Look, this piece of jade is clearly only half complete. How can it possibly be Boss?" Mushroom's eyes suddenly widened, and he gritted his teeth and said, "You cut the jade spirit into two." Gooden, that Mo Xianxian, that Zhu Yao, that the mushroom was already at the end of his patience, as he immediately made his move. His sword immediately slashed towards Mo Xianxian's hand. Naturally, Mo Xianxian would not allow him to slash her for no reason. In a flash, she retreated several meters away, summoned her divine sword, and charged forward as well. "Sigh. Don't fight, we're all acquaintances." Go Dan was in a dilemma. However, the two of them did not listen to him at all. "Humph, if you want to snatch the divine jade, then just say it. What's the point of making up lies about jade spirits?" Mo Xianxian coldly snorted. Evidently, she had treated Mushroom as a murderer who wanted to steal his treasures. "All right. Today, I shall take revenge for Rock Spirit." Mushroom's expression turned stern. He raised his hand and formed a familiar hand seal. A bolt of heavenly lightning rumbled down, striking straight towards Mo Xianxian. Not bad. After not seeing Mushroom for so long, not only did his cultivation level rise, and he even learned thunder spells? Although his cultivation was slightly lower than Mo Xianxian's, he was not at a disadvantage in the slightest. Zhu Yao was a little gratified, yet a little worried. On the other hand, Gooden tried to persuade them, but the two of them ignored him. He had actually joined the battle as well, and he was even standing on Mo Xianxian's side. Holy shit. This traitor. He really only cared about the opposite sex without any humanity. Zhu Yao was infuriated, and her hands were itching to beat someone up. "Yu Yao knows these people?" Su Nuyen suddenly spoke up, and asked with a calm expression. Zhu Yao turned her head a little strangely. He was acting a little too calm, wasn't he? The one fighting below was his wife. "That's Miss Mo from the dual cultivation ceremony." Su Nuyen was stunned for a moment. However, there was no hint of guilt on his face. "Oh, so it was her. I don't remember people I don't know." Lie continued to lie. A few days ago he was still gnashing his teeth and saying that he was framed, but now he said that he couldn't remember. That man though looks a little familiar. Su Nuyen suddenly changed his words, and pointed to the mushroom at the side. His eyes slightly narrowed. "Yu Yao, do you know him?" "We met once." Zhu Yao suddenly recalled that during the dual cultivation ceremony that day, she seemed to have called out to the mushroom. She did not know what Su Nuyen meant by asking such a question either. However, initially, she had wanted to go down and help, but now, she was a little hesitant. Su Nuyen had a stomach full of tricks. If he were to find out that she wasn't the real Yin Xian, who knew what would happen then? Earlier, she was not afraid of others finding out, because she had no intention of staying in Fluorescent Wind sect. However, the area-limiting mystic art on her body now basically prevented her from leaving. 2 against 1, the mushroom was evidently unable to hold on any longer, as he was forced to retreat step by Mo Xianxian. The mushroom grew anxious, and decided to immediately revert to his original form, turning into a gigantic red mushroom. That's right, he would still turn red when he was angry. "I'll crush you two to death," the mushroom shouted out loudly. With a leap, he flew into the air, and heavily pressed towards the two of them. It would be weird if such a simple and violent attack was useful, right? Mo Xianxian and Gooden retreated to the side, dodging it. Mo Xianxian even sent a flying kick straight towards the mushroom, instantly kicking him several meters away. That kick was imbued with divine energy, and it was extremely heavy, causing a dent to appear on the mushroom's umbrella. The hell? Zhu Yao could no longer hold it in. These two bitches, they actually dared to hit my mushroom. Rolling up her sleeves, she was about to charge forward. However, Su Nuyen was a step faster than her. In a flash, he landed on the ground. Immediately after, with a wave of his sleeves, 6 icicles immediately flew towards Mo Xianxian and Gooden. That attack was fast and urgent, and it even carried the might of a gold deity. The two of them were unable to dodge in time, and were almost pierced through by the icicles. "It's you." Mo Xianxian held onto her hand, which was cut by the icicles, as she ruthlessly stared at the person who came. Gooden, on the other hand, fainted from the divine energy carried by the icicles on the spot. "Su Nuyen, you still dare to appear in front of me?" Su Nuyen did not reply, however, his pair of peach blossom eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze gradually turned cold, as though he was looking at a stranger. "You heartless scum." Mo Xianxian instantly activated her dog scolding mode. "Today I am going to kill you and wipe away my previous shame." As she said that, she had already materialized her own sword intent. It was actually in the shape of a peach blossom with 5 petals, yet every single petal could be separated. It was unpredictable, and it immediately flew towards Su Nuyen. Su Nuyen, however, simply laughed coldly. Summoning his own flying sword, imbued it with divine energy, he swung his sword, and the petals were shattered into pieces. "Miss Mo, I don't know how this Su has offended you, but you have to frame me time and time again." His voice was neither hurried nor slow, and the gaze he was looking at her with was foreign and distant. If she had not known about the storyline beforehand, Zhu Yao would have believed that he really had no relationship with Mo Xianxian at all. "Frame." Mo Xianxian laughed out in a desolate manner. "We've been husband and wife for over 10,000 years. Yet you're actually saying that I'm the one who framed you. You and I are strangers." Su Nuyen's expression was magnanimous, as though he really did not know her. Mo Xianxian's entire body was trembling from anger. Su Nuyen frowned slightly before sighing. "Forget it, no matter what your reason is. No matter what your reason is, you've repeatedly caused trouble in my Fluorescent Wind sect's territory. Yet, I cannot forgive you." With a wave of his hand, he instantly summoned out another 3 icicles. "You want to kill me?" Mo Xianxian widened her eyes. She clearly knew that he had long forgotten about their past relationship. Yet, she never expected that he would really take her life with his own hands. Su Nuyen's fingers moved, and the 3 icicles flew towards Mo Xianxian, aiming straight for her vitals. Zhu Yao widened her eyes. This scumbag was actually able to do it. With a thought, the 3 fireballs instantly flew downwards. She immediately cast a transformation art on herself, descended from the sky, and landed in front of Mo Xianxian. Mo Xianxian seemed to have yet to regain her senses from the dense killing intent earlier, as she blankly looked at Zhu Yao. "Senior?" The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. All right. She simply did not want Mo Xianxian to see her walking together with Su Nuyen, and cause any misunderstandings. Hence, she wanted to change her appearance. However, she had forgotten that back when she was a jade spirit, she had saved her in this appearance as well. And he still remembered it. Let her go. Zhu Yao looked at Su Nuyen and said with a sunken voice. Su Nuyen, who still had a calm expression earlier, revealed a hint of a smile, and unexpectedly nodded cooperatively. All right. His eyes slowly sank, and he once again looked at her with that creepy gaze. Hurry and leave. Zhu Yao turned around and urged. Although she was a little angry that she had injured the mushroom, if she did not stop him, Su Nuyen would really kill her to silence her. Only then did Mo Xianxian wake up, as though she had just woken up from a dream. Holding on to Gooden, who had long fainted, she first looked at Zhu Yao with gratitude, before fiercely glaring at Su Nuyen behind her. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife, as though it was about to materialize. Unfortunately, Su Nuyen was completely oblivious, as he did not even look at her with half a glance. Wait a minute, return me the rock spirit. Mushroom, stop messing around. The mushroom endured the pain and leapt out again. You guys killed the rock spirit, I want to avenge it. You guys seem to have taken something you shouldn't have. Su Nuyen suddenly spoke up again, as he meaningfully looked at Mo Xianxian. Mo Xianxian gritted her teeth. In the end, she still threw the divine jade in her hand towards the mushroom, turned around, and flew away on her flying sword. Zhu Yao suddenly had a bad premonition. The hell? Su Nuyen couldn't have found out about the secret of the dimensional space, right? However, Su Nuyen did not move, and did not even glance at the jade on the ground. Instead, the mushroom leapt to the side of the jade, and in an instant his eyes drooped down. Even his voice was trembling. Rock. Rock. Rock spirit. The entire mushroom instantly turned deathly pale. Lowering his head, he used the mushroom umbrella to touch the half-piece of jade on the ground. Rock spirit. Rock spirit. I'm here to save you, rock spirit. He touched it a few times, and seeing that the jade on the ground did not have any reaction at all, as though he had broken down, he began to cry out loud. Wah, rock spirit. Don't die. Wake up. Wah. The mushroom cried out loud, and as though it was raining, water poured down from the mushroom umbrella. In the end, the entire mushroom laid on the ground, and began to roll about. This was the first time Zhu Yao understood what it meant to have tears flowing like a river. However, the depths of her heart were extremely sour as well. Taking a few steps forward, she pushed the mushroom, which was already soaked in her own tears. Don't cry. It's not like I'm dead. The mushroom completely ignored her, as he leaned his head on the jade and cried as hard as he could. Rock spirit. Rock spirit. I already told you to stop crying. Because of Su Nuyen's reappearance, she really couldn't admit her own identity. She could only try her best to persuade him, but the mushroom basically did not listen to her, as his sadness flowed like a river. Zhu Yao pondered for a moment, and then probingly called out, Don't cry, mushroom. She hurriedly gave him a secret signal. Don't be sad. As expected, the mushroom was startled for a moment, as he turned to look at her. Zhu Yao's back was facing Su Nuyen, as she desperately blinked her eyes. It's me, it's me, it's me. The mushroom then turned to look at the jade on the ground. Wah gua. Don't die. Get up and take a look at mushroom. Chapter 178. The mushroom cried for exactly 6 hours, turning from an energetic and fat mushroom into a dried mushroom. It was as though all the water in its body had turned into tears and flowed away. Zhu Yao sat at the side until her butt hurt, and only then did it stop crying. Zhu Yao casually cast a few recovery arts on him, and he returned to his human form, Wang Xuji's appearance. Picking up the half a piece of jade on the ground, he looked as though he had lost his soul. Mushroom, where are you planning to go? Zhu Yao could not help but ask. The mushroom sniffled, and kept the piece of jade into his bosom. A moment later he said, I'm going back to the forest to plant the rock spirit back, and see if it can grow back. That was a rock, not a mushroom. How could it possibly grow back? Wait a minute, it couldn't have buried the rock in that mound again, right? Thank you for helping me retrieve the rock spirit. The mushroom nodded towards Zhu Yao and Su Nuyen. It had been such a long time since they last met, and he seemed to have learned a few things about how to handle matters. Mushroom. Zhu Yao could not help but call out to him again. Are you still planning to find trouble with those two? He better not be stubborn and seek revenge everywhere. The mushroom's face was instantly filled with anger. I'm going to avenge the rock spirit. As expected. From what I see, the rock spirit in your hands shouldn't have been killed by those two people earlier. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep this corpse by their side at all times, right? Zhu Yao emphasized on the word corpse. The mushroom was startled, and his face was a little hesitant. Then, who killed the rock spirit? He committed suicide. How should I know? Even if he knew, he couldn't tell her. Without her looking after him, his cultivation wasn't high, and he was stupid as well. If he were to foolishly send himself to his death, how was she going to save him? Why don't you return to the forest first, and plant it well? It might really grow back. When it wakes up, you can ask it yourself. Oh, the mushroom nodded. That's good too. Phew, that Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. She finally managed to fool him. The mushroom's expression became a little better as well. He hurriedly bid farewell to her, and then flew towards the forest where the lightning divine hall was located. Relieved now? Su Nuyen took 2 steps forward, and looked at him with a smile. You are so good to that mushroom. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. Earlier, he did not make a sound the entire time, and she had subconsciously neglected his existence a little. He sure had the patience to accompany her for so long. Let's head to Cloudhold City. Zhu Yao summoned her divine sword. Wait. However, Su Nuyen stood in front of her and waved his hand in front of her. He removed the disguise on her face and returned to his original appearance. Yu Yao is still as beautiful as ever. Zhu Yao trembled, and a strange feeling once again rose from the depths of her heart. In that instant, she suddenly felt that Su Nuyen was a little dangerous, and she instinctively took a step back, putting some distance between them. Su Nuyen, on the other hand, did not continue to stick close to her, and followed her on her flying sword. This time, Zhu Yao did not dawdle any longer, and immediately increased her speed to Cloudhold City. Cloudhold City was located on an island. In the center of the island, a pillar of light shot up into the sky. The gate of heaven has already opened. It seems like the people who are ascending are about to arrive, Su Nuyen said. Only then did Zhu Yao recognize that it was the light of guidance, and thus she immediately flew towards the pillar of light. The source of the light was an altar-like place in the center of the island, and the light was currently being emitted from the circular formation at the center of the platform. There were already quite a few people standing in the surroundings. Looking at the totems on their sleeves, they were all disciples of Fluorescent Wind sect. They immediately landed at the center of the crowd. Senior Martial Brother Su. Those disciples evidently recognized Su Nuyen, as they came over to greet him passionately. However, they were not familiar with her, and after sizing her up for a moment, they no longer paid any attention to her. Su Nuyen did not have the intention to explain either, and immediately asked, "Has the person who ascended arrived yet?" The expressions of the disciples instantly paled. After exchanging glances, the person in the center stepped forward and said, "Senior Martial Brother Su, for some reason, the person who ascended has yet to arrive in the higher realm. How long has it been?" Su Nuyen frowned. "About 6 to 8 hours. The disciple replied. 6 to 8 hours. Zhu Yao was a little stunned as well. This light of guidance would only appear in the lower realm after the person who ascended had passed the ascension lightning tribulation, guiding them on the path of ascension. Since it had appeared for 6 to 8 hours, it meant that the tribulation lightning had long ended. Why had the person not ascended yet? How long more? Su Nuyen looked at the light of guidance and asked. At most, in another 15 minutes, the light of guidance will disappear. Su Nuyen was silent for a moment, and then he suddenly turned to look at Zhu Yao at the side. "Zhu Yao, what do you think is going on?" "How should I know?" Zhu Yao was startled. Why was she being dragged into this? "In my opinion, that person who ascended doesn't want to ascend in the first place." Su Nuyen found an excuse for himself. "How is that possible?" The disciple at the side could not help but refute. He has actually already attracted the ascension lightning tribulation. If he doesn't ascend, he won't have another chance in the future. If he doesn't ascend now, without obtaining a divine body, he can only die in the lower realm. Who would rather die than ascend? Maybe that person has unfinished business, or someone he can't let go of? Su Nuyen looked at Zhu Yao at the side, and his smile grew even deeper. It was that gaze again. Goosebumps rose all over Zhu Yao's body again. She had no choice but to shift her gaze, and continue to stare at the light of guidance. The other disciple did not reply either, and simply treated it as a joke. This light of guidance was a path that mortals had to pass to become deities. Only by going through the baptism of this light could one obtain a divine body and live forever. And the reason why practitioners of the lower realm sought the Tao was precisely for this goal. How could they easily give up on it? The light was already growing dimmer, and in the end, it looked as though it was about to dissipate. The fluorescent wind sect disciples present were a little confused. Suddenly the ground shook. On the formation of the light of guidance, a red light suddenly shone brightly, and it spread out in all directions. Careful! Zhu Yao simply felt her waist tighten, and then, she was carried away from her original spot by Su Nuyen, flying towards the sky. The ground had already cracked open inch by inch, and was collapsing downwards. The cracks were growing larger, and several houses and trees were collapsing as well. Zhu Yao widened her eyes, as she suddenly felt that this scene was a little familiar. The heavenly door is about to close, a disciple exclaimed. Another one, someone replied. This is already the 5th in recent years. That's right, more and more heavenly doors are closing for no reason. I never expected that the heavenly door so close to the inner door would close as well, Zhu Yao recalled. She seemed to have seen this scene before her previous reincarnation. Back then, the heavenly door of the lightning spiritual world was closing, and now, another one was closing here. From the tone of these disciples, was it normal for the heavenly doors of various worlds to close? Yu Yao, are you alright? Su Nuyen's slightly worried voice sounded next to her ears. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, and only then did she recall that she was still in his embrace. She instantly felt a little awkward, and immediately pushed him away, while riding on her sword in the air. Thank you. As though he did not see her disgusted expression, Su Nuyen smiled without minding it. It's good that you're alright. Zhu Yao once again felt a little awkward. These words sounded as though she was ungrateful. She really did feel a little like that. More and more people were forced to fly on their swords, and the cracks formed by the collapse of the ground below were already being quickly submerged by the seawater. Such a beautiful island was instantly shattered into pieces. Even the original appearance of the ascension stage could no longer be seen clearly, and the guiding light on it was growing weaker as well. Just when the last ray of light was about to disappear, a yellow figure suddenly flew out, and complacent laughter could be heard from the surroundings. Ha 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 ha, the heavens are helping me. A person suddenly appeared in the air. He was dressed in yellow clothes and pants, and even his hair was yellow. 3 words instantly popped out in Zhu Yao's mind. Minion. There was no imperial artifact beneath his feet, but a pair of gigantic yellow wings grew on his back. With every flap, a huge gust of wind would be stirred up. It's a demonic immortal, someone exclaimed. Why would a demonic immortal ascend from here? It's no wonder he didn't ascend to the higher realm. What should we do? He came prepared. The crowd was a little flustered. The strength of demonic immortals had always been stronger than that of deities. More importantly, demonic immortals had always been gregarious, and placed great importance on demonic immortals who had just ascended. Since this one appeared here, there would definitely be a group coming to receive him. The reason why he did not appear in the higher realm earlier was definitely because he was waiting for someone to receive him. If you're sensible, then hurry and scram. Don't block this granddaddy's path. The minion arrogantly glared at the crowd of deities. Just as he was about to flap his wings and fly away, he inadvertently turned his head to take a look, and his line of sight stopped on Zhu Yao. His eyes suddenly widened, and they instantly shone several times brighter than before. Zhu Yao simply felt her heart skip a beat, as she suddenly had a bad premonition. As expected, That minion did not leave either. In a flash, he appeared in front of her and grabbed onto her hand. "Miss, why don't we be friends?" Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Sizing him up for a moment, she pinched onto a layer of flesh on his claw and forcefully twisted it. "I'm sorry, I don't follow demonic beasts with bad taste." As expected, things like little animals were really hateful. The minion painfully released his hand, yet he was not the least bit discouraged. His snow-white eyes were as bright as lanterns. "It's fine. If you don't want to be friends, you can marry me. I'll bring you back to the demonic immortal continent." After saying that, he really reached out to pull Zhu Yao. Suddenly, an icicle shot straight towards him. The minion's figure flashed, and the icicle flew right past Zhu Yao. A mere livestock actually dares to have such wishful thinking. Su Nuyen took a step forward, blocking in front of Zhu Yao. His voice was as cold as ice. "Where did you pop out from?" The minion was enraged as well, as he ruthlessly glared at Su Nuyen. In an instant, he flapped his wings even more forcefully. "I like that girl, hand her over to me. When the person who receives me arrives, I will let the people here go. How about it?" Zhu Yao was speechless. "I say, you're a minion, but don't have the intelligence of an anime character as well." Su Nuyen did not reply, but his smile grew colder. Girl. The minion desperately waved his claws at her. "Follow me home." Scram. Chapter 179. "Girlie, how can you treat me like this?" The minion instantly looked at her with teary eyes. "I'm being sincere. I want to give birth to a nest of eggs with you. Who wants to lay eggs for you? Is there not a single demonic beast in this world that has a normal intelligence? It's fine if she was a dragon in the past, but what's with this one?" This time, without needing Zhu Yao to flip out, Su Nuyen had already summoned dozens of icicles, and were fiercely stabbing at the minion. The demonic immortal fluttered his wings and dodged very pathetically. As he dodged, he even shouted at Zhu Yao. Girlie, look at me." Zhu Yao's expression darkened. The minion dodged a few waves of icicles, and gradually he felt a little powerless. After all, he had just ascended, and he had even suffered a wave of tribulation lightning in the lower realm. He basically did not have much divine energy left. Otherwise, he wouldn't have relied on his wings to fly. Su Nuyen's expression sank, as he once again summoned a wave of icicles. This time, there were more than 100 of them. "Hey, you who popped out of nowhere? You really have to anger Grandpa, right?" The minion was enraged. Even that pile of yellow hair that looked like weeds stood up. With a forceful flap of his wings, several hundred feathers flew out. Some turned into fireballs, and some turned into sharp swords. They attacked Su Nuyen. "Humph, you're courting death." Su Nuyen's voice grew even colder. With a wave of his hand, those fireballs and sharp swords were all turned into ashes. In a flash, his figure appeared in front of the demonic immortal. "You? How could you?" Before the demonic immortal could even react, his neck was already gripped by the other party in the next moment. He simply felt a chill instantly spreading through his entire body. "This is Senior Martial Brother Su," a disciple anxiously said from behind. "The demonic immortal is about to arrive. It's not a good time to clash with him now." Su Nuyen turned a deaf ear to it, as his grip tightened even more. The minion's face had already turned purplish black, as though he was about to stop breathing in the next second. "Let him go." Zhu Yao's voice was a little cold. Su Nuyen was startled. His hand stiffened for a moment, and then he slowly let go. The minion demonic immortal was still in a state of shock, as he immediately distanced himself. Pressing on his chest, he panted endlessly. When he had the time, he pitifully glanced at Zhu Yao, and then looked at Su Nuyen, who was standing unmoving at his original spot. His figure trembled, and with a wave of his wings he reluctantly flew away. "Yu Yao, he was the one who was rude to you first." Su Nuyen's smile was still the same as before, though it was now a little stiff. Zhu Yao simply looked at him, and did not speak. Instead, a disciple at the side came over. "Senior Brother Su, Junior Sister, it's not good to stay here for long. Let's quickly leave. You two go first, we will follow right after." Zhu Yao replied. Yet her eyes were still looking at Su Nuyen in front of her. The disciple hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she still rode her sword and left with the others. Not long later, other than her and Su Nuyen, everyone else had left. Earlier, I only wanted to protect you, Su Nuyen said softly, his tone carrying a hint of apprehension. He's just a demonic beast. If you don't like it, I won't kill him. His expression was a little panicked, as if he wanted to explain something to her. Yao, you're angry? Zhu Yao let out a deep sigh, and for a moment, she was even looking down on her own intelligence a little. She was really motherfucking slow at coming online. Yuing. His expression instantly paled, and his hands lightly trembled for a few moments. After a long while, he finally let out a light laugh, and sighed faintly. Big sis Yao, you're still so smart. When his words fell, his face twisted a few times, and slowly, it turned into another face, one that was familiar yet foreign at the same time. The smile on his face was still as gentle as the wind. As expected, it was him. She had always felt that there was something off with Su Nuyen today, but she had never thought of Yuing. Only when he used that familiar move to grab the minion earlier, did she finally confirm it. Zhu Yao frowned. Looking at the person in front of her, she once again sighed. Where's Su Nuyen? Yu Ying's smile deepened a little, as he stared straight at her without blinking. Didn't Big Sis Yao dislike him? You killed him. Yuing did not reply, and simply looked at her with a smile. Zhu Yao suddenly felt that she did not recognize the person in front of her. Just when did it start? That child who only knew how to keep a wooden face had already learned to use a smile to conceal his own emotions. Big Sis Yao. Yuing suddenly walked towards her, one step at a time. He was not riding on a sword, but was walking in the air. With every step he took, a black lotus would bloom beneath his feet. With every step he took, a black lotus would bloom beneath his feet. He stopped a step away from her, and slowly reached out his hand. Just like how he did when she was young, he hugged onto her waist tightly without a single gap. Big Sis Yao, Yuing misses you so much. He misses you so much. His voice was very soft, and carried a hint of longing, as though he was a child who had found his parents. Zhu Yao's heart softened for no reason, yet, she had no choice but to harden her heart and ask. Yuing, are you a devil? She felt the hands that were circling around her stiffen for an instant, before tightening again a moment later. He buried his head into the side of her neck and rubbed against it. I'm Big Sis Yuing, and I will always be. Yuing. Zhu Yao suddenly felt a deep sense of helplessness. You're a devil. This time, it was not a question but a confirmation. He hugged her even tighter, as though he was avoiding something. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't have been able to find Big Sis. Big Sis was the one who said it. You told me to wait for you, and that you would return immediately. But, I waited. I waited for a very, very long time, yet you never returned. So, Yuing could only look for you. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment, as she faintly recalled that she had indeed said such words before. You're looking for me just to vent your anger by killing me? It seemed like the one who killed her back then was really him. Of course not. Yuing released her. His face was clearly filled with panic and regret. Back then, I didn't know that was Big Sis Yao. You changed your appearance so Yuing didn't recognize you. Back then, you clearly asked me if I was Yu Yan's disciple. I thought you were Sovereign Yu Yan's new disciple. Yuing lowered his head, and his words were filled with nervousness. Hasn't Big Sis Yao always been very happy that you're the only disciple of Jade Forest Mountain? Big Sis is unique, so even in the higher realm, even if he's Big Sis's master, he can't have any other disciples. A hint of ruthlessness flashed past his eyes. Zhu Yao subconsciously took a step back. Sensing her resistance, Yu Ying's expression instantly collapsed. Anxious and flustered, he stared straight into her eyes, as though he was extremely afraid that she would reveal a look of disgust. Just like when he was young, he would tug onto the corner of her robe whenever he was nervous, and look at her pitifully. Big Sis Yao, don't be angry. I am indeed angry. The luster in his eyes instantly dimmed, and the hand which was grabbing onto the corner of her robe slightly trembled. But I'm angry at myself. He raised his head in an instant, and his face was filled with confusion. Zhu Yao sighed deeply. She really could not blame him for anything. Though, she would rather he was someone who looked like Yuing, a vicious and merciless pure devil. Then, her emotions would not be this complicated. She did not even have the qualifications to blame him for anything. He came to the higher realm because of her, and from his tone he came to the higher realm because he turned into a devil. However, he did all of this to look for her. He was born in such a unique situation, and no one had even looked forward to his birth. Even though she had entrusted him to little Radish, with his aptitude of pentaspirit veins, in a world where the weak were prey to the strong, and where the strong were respected, it could be imagined just how difficult it was for him to survive. That was why he viewed her as his only support. Though she had saved him, she had never spent any effort to teach him. As the saying goes, it's the father's fault for not teaching his child. Right now she deeply regretted it. Back then, when she was able to guide little Radish, why did she never put a single thought into Yuing? Was it because he wasn't a bug? If she wanted to teach him now, would it be too late? Yuing, I'm sorry. He instantly smiled. That pure and innocent smile that did not contain the slightest bit of impurities. Yuing will never blame Big Sis Yao. Zhu Yao instantly felt a sense of guilt, as though she had ruined a good youth. What should she do now? Could he still change back? Big Sis. He once again leaned over, his eyes were filled with attachment, as though he had found his pillar of support. Don't leave Yuing again, all right? I want some peace and quiet. She suddenly did not know how to sort out this mess. I won't let Big Sis Yao leave again. His voice instantly sank, and his tone was as stubborn as a child throwing a tantrum. Yuing, let me think about it, all right? Because I'm a devil, Big Sis Yao doesn't want me anymore. No. Then Big Sis, are you going to kill me? His hand that was grabbing onto the corner of her clothes instantly tightened. Black smoke leaked out from his hand, and the snow-white corner of her clothes instantly turned into ashes. Yuing. Zhu Yao was dumbfounded. However, he reached out his hand and pulled her into his embrace. The smile on his face grew even gentler. Yet Zhu Yao felt a hint of coldness seeping out from that smile. You can't, Big Sis Yao. I've finally found you. You can't abandon Yuing again. Yuing, let me go first. This child. Why did he flip out in just a few sentences? After so many years had passed, not only did his Oedipus complex not recover, it had even worsened. This was an illness. It had to be treated. His grip tightened even more, and Zhu Yao felt as though her waist was about to snap. If I let go, Big Sis will abandon me again. Yuing. Zhu Yao was a little afraid at that moment. The devilish aura faintly leaking out from his body made her feel exceptionally uncomfortable, causing the divine energy in her entire body to automatically defend against it. Only then did she truly feel that he was a true devil. She almost could not hold it in any longer, and instinctively summoned heavenly lightning bolts to attack him. However, this was Yuing, the child she had personally saved. Yuing once again buried his head into the side of her neck, as though he had fallen into an obsession. His voice trembled as he repeated, Big Sis Yao won't leave, Big Sis Yao won't leave. Zhu Yao couldn't push him away, and he wouldn't listen to her either. For a moment, she did not know what to do. Chapter 180. Zhu Yao was startled. Demonic immortal? Could it be that these four people were here to pick up Minion? Hey, I'm asking you a question. Answer me properly and I'll spare your lives. Seeing that they didn't answer for a long time, one of the red-haired demon immortals was obviously a little impatient. There's no need to be courteous with them. Another Yao immortal snorted coldly. Immortal cultivators aren't anything good. Just kill them. The other two smiled, seeming to think the same. Immediately, sword lights filled the sky and attacked them. Was there a need to be so violent? Before Zhu Yao could even move, she heard a word that sounded as cold as ice. Noisy. She suddenly had a bad premonition. In the blink of an eye, the sword light that filled the sky shattered and turned into colorful fluorescent lights that fell down like auroras. As for the demonic immortal who attacked, he was clutching his bloody chest. With a shocked expression, he fell from the sky. And in the hands of Yuin, who was a few steps away from her, was currently holding onto a heart that was still beating. Fresh red blood was currently flowing down along his arm. Yet, as if he felt that it was not enough, he exerted force in his palm, and instantly, that fresh red heart turned into minced meat, mixing with fresh blood and covering his entire hand. Everything happened too quickly. Before the people present could react, the demonic immortal, who was arrogant just now, was already dead. Are you guys here to snatch Big Sis Yao from me as well? He was smiling, but that smile did not reach his eyes in the slightest. Instead, it was filled with bone-piercing coldness. Only then did the other three come to their senses. They wanted to turn around and flee, but it was already too late. The three of them were frozen in the air by a powerful pressure, unable to move. It wasn't easy for Yuing to find it. I won't let you guys have it. Yuing looked like she was taking a stroll. He walked over step by step. With every step he took, the three of them felt the pressure increase. First, it was their hands and feet that exploded, and then it slowly spread to their bodies. Everywhere was a mess of flesh and blood. Zhu Yao instantly felt nauseous, as she turned around and felt like vomiting. But he still couldn't help but shout to stop them. Yu Yin's sadistic killing was like a game. Enough. Was this still her little Yuing? This was simply the devil. Yuin was startled and obediently did not take another step forward. After a long while, he slowly turned around. In a flash, he returned to her side and reached out to hug her again. Zhu Yao stared at that blood-red hand, and suddenly recalled what he had done earlier. He took a few steps back. Big Sis Yao. Yuing looked at her blankly, his eyes were filled with confusion. After taking a few more steps forward, Zhu Yao took another step back. His eyes were instantly dyed with madness. His entire body was overflowing with darkness, as he forcefully hugged onto Zhu Yao. I'm not leaving, Big Sis Yao. You're not allowed to leave. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Zhu Yao tried to reason with him. However, he was unable to wake up from his frenzied emotions. Carrying Zhu Yao, he immediately flew towards a certain direction. Yuing. Zhu Yao struggled a few times. Unable to struggle free at all, she finally realized that his abnormality was not only because of his relationship with the devil race, but also because he was terrifyingly paranoid, and would not listen to other people's advice. Seeing that they were getting further and further away from Fluorescent Wind's sect, a familiar suffocating feeling once again came from her heart. Mama's egg, she couldn't leave. Yuing, hurry and let go of me. No matter what she said, he turned a deaf ear, and simply brought her along as he flew. That pain that felt as though it could tear a person apart once again flared up, and she felt as though she could hear the sounds of her organs tearing apart. Yuing. The hell, Yuing? You purposely came here to force me to log off, right? The first time was like this, and the second time was still like this. Zhu Yao could already feel her consciousness becoming increasingly blurry. The last scene she saw was the howling of the wind in her surroundings, and that mouthful of blood that she did not know if she had puked out or not. This spoiled brat. This old lady will never forgive you for the rest of my life. Her surroundings were pitch black, and in her field of vision, there was only that familiar running loading bar. I died again. Ugh, damned brat. This is your little ability to forcefully log off, right? It's the first time, and the second time. Zhu Yao sighed. She never expected that she would die so unjustly this time. Also, the bug this time was oddly patched as well. The two main characters, in a situation where she was not even aware of it, had completely deviated from the main storyline. The female lead Emo Xianxian's dimensional space was taken back by the mushroom to plant, and the male lead was even more unlucky, as he was instantly turned into Yu Ying's cannon fodder. What could she use to save this collapsing storyline? Zhu Yao glanced at the pitch-black space, and called out to Realm Spirit a few times, yet there was no response. A row of white words suddenly appeared in the air. World Festival is on a long holiday. Do not disturb me if there's nothing. World Festival? The hell was that? And I thought it was a national holiday? Would Realm Spirit even have a long holiday? Which company made such a rule? It was no wonder he didn't even have to bother with that pain-in-the-ass chat box now. Zhu Yao suddenly felt like slapping him in the face. The loading bar had already reached the end, and it displayed the words 100%. Her vision darkened. When Zhu Yao woke up, she thought she was dreaming again. She once again saw those large lumps of green, but this time, she finally saw them clearly. Those green lumps were actually leaves. Those leaves were extremely large, and they seemed to have covered a large half of the sky. Layers upon layers of leaves were so dense that not even wind could pass through, and only 1 or 2 strands of light would occasionally seep through. Zhu Yao moved, however. She felt that her surroundings were slippery, and something was rippling in front of her eyes. It's water. She fell into the water. Zhu Yao instantly panicked. She wanted to swim upwards, only to realize that there was something transparent blocking her from the surroundings. Other than turning around, she could not do anything else. She frantically struggled for a quarter of an hour, and then, she realized something. She could breathe. She was worried for nothing. Her life was no longer in danger. She began to think about the problem of escaping. How could she leave this place? Just as she was thinking, suddenly, a voice that carried a childish tone sounded. Second brother. A fiery red figure suddenly floated over. It was a little boy, who looked to be in his teens. Dressed in a red robe, he looked extremely festive. His little face, however, was scrunched up into a ball. With a furious look, he began to look around, as though he was looking for something, yet he simply passed by her. He sized up the surroundings, and the anger on his little face grew heavier. Zhu Yao could even feel his anger. Second brother, you said you would accompany me. The little boy shouted out twice, yet, there was no reply from the surroundings. His little hands clenched even tighter. Suddenly, he raised his head and ruthlessly glared at Zhu Yao. It's all your fault. Was she being unjustly attacked? She didn't do anything. It's all because of you that second brother is ignoring me. Little friend, you can't blame society for being ugly. The little boy's eyes were wide open, and his little face was puffed up like a bun. The heat on his body seemed to be about to turn into flames. No, it really turned into flames, hey? The little boy's whole body was on fire. Before Zhu Yao could even be surprised, suddenly, that child, who seemed to have been added with special effects, charged over like a raging bull. He raised his hands. He pushed her forcefully. I hate you the most. Then he turned around and ran away. What does it have to do with me that you hate me? You make it sound as if liking me will improve my status. This little wimp looked small, but he had quite a bit of strength. Zhu Yao's entire body was pushed backwards by him, and she instantly panicked in the depths of her heart. He fell head first, and from the corner of his eyes, he could only see the figure of little wimp running out with a sad expression. Who should be sad? Crack! Zhu Yao heard the sound of something cracking. A few cracks suddenly appeared in front of her, and then a few cracking sounds could be heard. The cracks grew wider and wider. The water in the surroundings instantly flowed into the cracks, and a fresh scent seeped in. Zhu Yao simply felt a heavy pressure on her chest. Then she violently coughed. The water that was still perfectly fine had entered her lungs. He choked on the air and felt very uncomfortable. Zhu Yao instinctively dodged and struggled a few times, and strangely realized that the area she could move had increased. The cracks grew larger as well, and finally, they shattered. Zhu Yao laid on the ground. She did not have the slightest bit of strength in her body, yet she still happily raised her hand, only to see a sharp, muscular object. Where did this chicken wing come from? It's so big. She then forcefully raised her arm, and only then did she realize. The hell, this was her hand? When did it mutate? She then turned to look at her own leg. The hell, where did this chicken wing come from? She had turned into a bird, and it was even a huge bird that had yet to grow feathers. In an instant, her entire body felt terrible. When she turned to look, the ground was littered with broken eggshells. So the reason she couldn't move earlier was because she was still in the egg. Then now, was it because the little wimp had broken the eggshell, causing her to be born prematurely? It was no wonder she did not even have the strength to stand up, and her entire body was aching. As expected, spoiled brats were her nemesis. After laying on the ground for a while, Zhu Yao gathered a little strength, and tried to stand up. However, her feet suddenly slipped, and with a plop, she once again fell down. And because there was water on the ground, she slid a few meters away. Then, the ground beneath her feet became empty, and two words flashed in her mind. It's over. The hell? Where did the hole in the ground come from? Zhu Yao fell in a straight line, falling faster and faster. A gigantic object appeared in her vision. A tree, such a huge tree. Only then did she realize that she basically did not fall into a hole, but from a tree. The place she was at earlier was actually a tree trunk of a huge tree. That tree was extremely tall, as though it was going to break through the sky. When she fell, she passed through white clouds in all directions. She was going to turn into a meat patty from this height, right? Save me. No, wait, save this bird. Zhu Yao wanted to shout, but she realized her throat seemed to be blocked by something, and she was basically unable to make a sound. She could faintly see the ground. It's over. Suddenly, her wings tightened, and a huge gust of wind swept over. Her falling momentum suddenly stopped. Raising her head, she saw a gigantic bird. It looked a little like an eagle, but it was 100 times bigger than an eagle. When its wings spread out, it gave the illusion of covering the sky and covering the sun. Dark gray, it looked a little like the Great Pung in the legends. The Great Pung used its beak to hold her chicken wing, and flew swiftly towards the sky. The surrounding scenery flashed past like afterimages, and it was unimaginably fast. This bird, it couldn't be thinking of eating her, right? Zhu Yao instantly felt like crying. Don't be like this. It's already so exciting the moment it appeared. Is it really alright? The Great Pung flew for about an hour, and finally, it stopped on top of a cliff. At the top of the cliff, there was a gigantic bird nest, and inside there were 3 bare little birds. Chapter 181. Rather than being eaten, she might as well fall to her death. Zhu Yao began to struggle with all her might. The big ping's mouth was as tight as an iron clamp. It flew all the way back to the nest before placing her in the middle of the 3 chicks. Zhu Yao instantly tensed up, as she waited for the 3 little birds to pounce on her and dismember her corpse. However, the 3 bald birds didn't even look at her. They pushed her to the side and threw themselves into the arms of the big birds. Could it be that he disliked her for having too little meat? Birds are also picky eaters. That large bird swept its wings, protecting the 3 bald birds under its wings. It then turned to look at Zhu Yao, as though it was waiting for something. His eyes were focused, and he even intentionally lowered his head, moving closer to Zhu Yao's eyes. What was it doing? Chirp. The big bird chirped and tilted its head to look at her. His eyes were like black grapes, blinking. Zhu Yao stiffened. Her eyes must be blurry, right? Why was she able to sense the admiration of a child from that bird's eyes? Seeing that she didn't respond, the big bird let out an aggrieved cooing sound and rubbed its head against her as if it was comforting her. Zhu Yao suddenly had a bold thought. This bird. Could it be that it had treated her as its own child? She looked at her own bare chicken wings, and then looked at the 3 bald birds under the big bird's wings. Okay, they really do look like them. The big bird didn't stay for long. In less than a quarter of an hour, it had chased the 3 little ones back to the nest. Then it flapped its wings and flew out again. The 3 little bald birds reluctantly walked back. One of them walked back and pushed Zhu Yao. 2 of them came back and pushed her again. When the 3rd one came back, she had already been pushed to the edge of the nest. Oh, so this nest of birds was actually xenophobic. There wasn't much communication between the 3 birds. They just chirped a few times. He began to doze off. After a while, the bird came back with something in its beak. It stopped at the edge of the nest and opened its mouth. 4 to 5 gray-furred, long-tailed mice fell out. Chirp, chirp, chirp. There was a commotion in the nest. The 3 birds seemed very excited. They flapped their bare wings and looked at the mouse on the ground with shining eyes. Zhu Yao's heart skipped a beat. Was this for them? Sure enough, the big bird was holding the mouse in its mouth. He placed one in front of each bird, including her. The 3 birds had already begun to eat heartily, some using their claws to tear the food into pieces. Some swallowed it whole. Zhu Yao looked at the gray and bald rat in front of her, whose entire body was twitching. Evidently, it was not completely dead yet, and her entire bird felt unwell. Master's place was so scary. Hurry up and pick up your disciple. Chirp, chirp. Seeing that she didn't move, the mother bird moved its head closer. He looked at her suspiciously. He pushed the mouse on the ground towards her with his mouth, as if trying to persuade her to eat quickly. Zhu, that I don't want to eat mice. Moreover, it was eaten raw. The mother bird pushed a few times, but Zhu did not budge at all. It once again let out that purring sound, which was unknown if it was sad or wronged. Then, it turned its head and brought the remaining rat under its feet in front of her. Once again, it pushed the 2 rats towards her. It seemed to be saying, here are 2. That should be enough, right? Hurry up and eat. Zhu felt like crying. It wasn't that she thought it was too little. The mother bird's biased actions had evidently attracted the attention of the other birds. The 3 bald birds who were currently eating instantly stopped and looked towards her in unison. Zhu felt 3 times the resentment. What to do? She felt disgusted just by looking at the mouse, let alone eating it. However, looking at the mother bird's earnest eyes, she suddenly felt a sense of guilt. Zhu eyes turned. Raising one of her fleshy wings, she pointed at the back of the mother bird and jumped a few times with an excited look. When all the birds turned their heads to look, she immediately grabbed a few tree branches and buried the mouse. Then, she buried her head at the side, pretending to be eating. When the 4 birds turned their heads back, she slowly raised her head and licked the corner of her lips. Mama's egg, even acting skills are tested as a bird. Life as a bird is too difficult. Zhu stayed in this crowded nest. The mother bird would go out several times every day, and the things it brought back would be different every time. Sometimes it would be various strange flowers and plants, sometimes it would be various fruits, and of course there would be various types of meat. Without exception, they were all raw. It was still alright when she brought back fruits, as she could still eat them. However, she was really unable to accept raw meat. She could only think of various ways to divert the mother bird's attention, and then hide the meat of the mouse, rabbit, and the like. In these 3 days, she had already hidden several of them under her feet. If this continued, she would definitely be exposed. And the weather seemed to be getting warmer. If this continued, the meat would definitely stink. In order to prevent such a situation, she thought of an idea. While the other birds were eating fruits, she grabbed a mouse and threw it under the claws of the little bird at the side. As expected, its eyes instantly shone, and it excitedly shook its fleshy wings. However, it did not move and looked at her doubtfully. It looked as though it wanted to eat it, but because the food was hers, it did not dare to move. Zhu reached out her claws and plucked one of the fruits that belonged to it, and placed it next to her. I'll exchange with you. Only then did the little bird understand. After plucking 3 more fruits for her, it then ate the mouse with ease. In the following days, Zhu did the same thing. She would first hide the meat, and when there were fruits, she would then exchange them with the little bird. In these few days, even the little bird had gotten used to it. Every time it was time to split the fruits, it would automatically push them over to her. Hence, 3 months later, the little bird that had been sitting next to her the entire time rapidly grew fat, and with a size that was 3 times larger than the other birds, it took up almost half of the space in the nest. Zhu felt a little guilty looking at it, and was hesitating if she should change targets to exchange food. The little birds had all grown feathers, and were no longer bald. However, the feathers of the 3 birds were a little different. One was light gray, one was dark gray, and the last one was gray and black. Only she was colorful. Zhu body was covered in feathers of various colors, and she was especially eye-catching in the completely dark-colored nest. Every time the mother bird saw her, it would always have a doubtful look. As expected, they were not of the same breed. Zhu was not clear what she was either. In the beginning, when she saw the rainbow-colored feathers, her first reaction was, she was a phoenix. However, even phoenixes had tail feathers, yet she did not even have a single one, and her tail did not seem to have any intention of growing any longer either. Rather than calling her a phoenix, she looked more like a chicken. In an instant, she felt as though her life had received a huge blow. Today's weather was clear and cloudless. It was the day when Mother Bird brought all the little birds out. Compared to when they first met, the 3 little birds had grown quite a bit. Their sizes had doubled. Except for little bird number 3, which had grown 4 times its original size. Zhu Yao was the one who fed them. The only one who did not grow much was Zhu Yao, probably because she only ate fruits. However, her figure was larger than the other birds in the first place, so her skinny figure was not very obvious. Only after leaving the nest did she realize that there was actually such a large piece of flat land on top of the cliff. This was the first time she came out. Every single bird was very excited, though they could not fly. Yet they were flapping their wings here and there, and scratching their claws there, playing extremely happily, until Mother Bird let out a long cry, and stopped at the edge of the cliff. Only then did the 3 little birds reluctantly walk over, and stand in a row. Zhu Yao was the last one. Cha! Mother Bird called out to the 4 little ones, as though it was saying something to them. However, Zhu Yao did not understand. Evidently, the other 3 understood. The first one called out, Cha. The second one called out twice, Cha-cha. The third one called out thrice, Cha-cha-cha. The fourth one, Zhu Yao, that the formation was disrupted. The 4 birds turned their heads in unison, and their gazes were focused on her body. Their eyes were filled with condemnation and dissatisfaction. Go ahead and call out. Zhu Yao shrunk her head, and a drop of cold sweat dripped down. Looking at the 4 increasingly stern gazes, she had no choice but to bite the bullet and let out a cry. Chick! Little bird number 3 flapped its wings, and directly slapped onto Zhu Yao's head. It looked as though it had expected better from her. Zhu Yao instantly felt stars forming in front of her eyes. So ruthless. What happened to the promised brother-sister love? It wasn't that she didn't want to call out, but she simply couldn't make that cha sound. She wondered if it was because her structure was different from these birds. Although they had already grown feathers, she was still only able to make chick-chick-chick sounds, while they had already learned to cha-cha-cha sounds. Of course, she still didn't know how to speak. Most probably, a chicken of her breed basically couldn't speak. Perhaps, she could try calling out. After Zhu Yao received her punishment, the mother bird no longer continued to make things difficult for her. She mumbled something to them, and little bird number 1 took a step forward, standing next to the mother bird. Before the rest of the birds could even react, the mother bird suddenly opened its wings and pushed little bird number 1, pushing it down the cliff. Little bird number 1 had only managed to arrive in time. With a cry, it fell from the sky. Zhu Yao was dumbfounded. Mother bird, what's wrong with you? Was this the mother bird who would grumble in sadness whenever her child missed a meal? Why did her drawing style suddenly change, hey? In the next moment, Zhu Yao finally understood the intentions of the mother bird, because little bird number 1 had already flown back on its own. She was teaching them how to fly. After little bird number 1 returned, it was little bird number 2's turn. It learned very quickly as well, and after falling down for a while it flew back. Though little fat bird number 3 had to spend twice the amount of time compared to the rest before it could fly back. Its body was too fat and heavy, and the moment it reached the top of the cliff, it was already lying on the ground in exhaustion. Finally, it was Zhu Yao's turn. The mother bird mumbled at her, signaling her to come over. Zhu Yao took a step back, and then another step back. And then she ran. She wasn't going to jump off the cliff. It would be fine if she was really a bird, but the main point was that she was evidently a chicken, and was basically not the same breed as the rest of the birds. If she were to fall from such a height, she would definitely fall to her death. I don't want to. Cha. The mother bird flapped its wings and flew up, landing in front of Zhu Yao, blocking her path. She turned around and wanted to escape, but the mother bird's claw pressed down on her back. That goo-goo-goo sound grew even louder, as though it was lecturing her for not listening. Grabbing onto her, it flew back to the cliff. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Zhu Yao panicked. Taking advantage of the moment when it loosened its claw, she slipped away and ran far away. Her stubborn attitude angered the birds. 3 gusts of wind swept over, and little birds number 1, 2, and 3 stood in a row, blocking her way. They chirped randomly, as though they were condemning her willfulness. They lowered their heads in unison, and pushed her towards the edge of the cliff. We're eating in the same nest. Why are we in such a rush to destroy each other? Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the edge of the cliff, Zhu Yao's heart turned cold. I'm going to die, right? He would definitely fall to his death. Suddenly, a loud and resonant cry came from the sky. The 4 birds suddenly stopped moving, as if they had heard some terrifying sound, and all of them began to tremble, especially the mother bird at the edge of the cliff. Her whole body squatted on the ground, trembling so much that the feathers on her body fell off, and finally, as if she could not control the fear in her heart, he plunged into the ground. Are you an ostrich? It was the same for birds 1 to 3. Following closely behind their mother's footsteps, the 3 birds also plunged their heads into the soil. Zhu Yao glanced at the mother bird on the right. He then glanced at the 3 birds on the left. Shouldn't she also follow his advice? But the ground at the top of the cliff was very hard. If he were to plunge in like this, would he get hurt? But if you don't, would I appear to be unsociable? Hence, Zhu Yao cheated by using her claws to dig open a hole, and then hit her head inside the hole. Then he covered it with 2 handfuls of soil. Her eyes, however, were searching around. Just what was it that they were afraid of? In an instant, a strong gale blew, and something landed not far in front of them. A pair of pure white shoes instantly appeared in her vision. She could not help but turn her head to look upwards, and saw a figure dressed in a snow-white robe. It was a man. The moment she saw his face clearly, Zhu Yao subconsciously held her breath. She never knew that a person could be so beautiful, as long as he stood there. It was as if everything in the world had become his foil. His long hair reached the ground, and there was a cinnabar in between his brows, which seemed to carry a hint of worry. The corner of his lips carried a hint of a smile. Zhu Yao's eyes widened. A handsome man. However, he was still not as good as her master. Wasn't this the auntie from the Phoenix clan when she turned into an egg? Xiaobai, did you find it? The auntie came forward. Xiaobai. Zhu Yao was startled, as she raised her head to look at the man who was hugging her. It can't be. This man who was so beautiful that even the heavens would be enraged. Was that skinny child back then? May I ask what's the secret art of your growth? I beg on my knees. Amen. Xiaobai responded. The hand that was hugging Zhu Yao shifted, revealing his entire head. Let me see. She took a step forward. Hi, auntie. Zhu Yao wanted to greet her, but the voice she let out was only a single sound. Chica, as I thought. The auntie did not mind her unpleasant voice in the slightest, as she excitedly reached out her hands towards her. Xiaobai, however, lightly dodged to the side, as the auntie raised her empty hands with an awkward look. It seemed like little friend Xiaobai's relationship with the auntie wasn't very good. The auntie coughed a few times before saying, Is she all right? Her aura is weak, her figure is thin and small, and she can't transform. Even flying is difficult for her. His voice grew deeper. His last sentence even carried a slight tremble. Lowering his head to look at Zhu Yao in his embrace, his eyes carried a little heartache sorrow, gently stroking the slightly messy feathers on her body. It's good that she's back. It's good that she's back. Her body can slowly recover. The auntie let out a long sigh, and something flashed past her eyes. She carefully asked, Xiaobai. Look, little 7th is already back, then little 6th. Before she could even finish, Xiaobai's expression instantly turned as cold as ice, and even Zhu Yao could feel that cold aura. She doesn't even have tail feathers. The auntie seemed to have been frightened, as she took a deep breath. Her face was filled with shock. Her expression was especially complicated, and the eyes she was looking at Zhu Yao actually carried a hint of pity. The grown-up Xiaobai coldly snorted. Carrying Zhu Yao, he left without even turning back, leaving the crowd in the plaza behind. What's going on? Did the negotiations fall through? The grown-up Xiaobai was unexpectedly a very gentle man, completely unlike a child who had experienced a trauma when he was young. Ever since Zhu Yao was brought away by him, he had taken care of all her matters. Just like a 5-star nanny, her basic necessities, food, lodging, and transportation were all handled by him. He raised her like a child, and he was even pampering her. No matter how she threw a tantrum, he would always smile with a gentle and tolerant look. No matter how Zhu Yao thought about it, she was unable to connect him with the child who was so skinny that only bones were left. And it was fortunate that after experiencing such an incident for 2,000 years, he actually did not grow crooked. Instead, he had grown into such a gentle and handsome young man. That's right. The character she resurrected into this time was that egg she had mysteriously turned into when she fainted back then. And it had already been 2,000 years since then. Little friend Xiao Bai had hatched her for exactly 2,000 years, and he had also grown from a little phoenix into a big phoenix. All the birds thought that she was a dead egg. Little friend Xiao Bai, however, persevered and finally hatched her. Lad, not bad, you have a bright future. Bringing him out of that godforsaken place back, when she was still an egg, was not a waste. After understanding the cause, Zhu Yao happily patted on Xiao Bai with her claws. However, she accidentally used too much force, and with a ripping sound, a few long wounds opened up on his chest. 3 long strips of cloth fluttered in the wind, revealing the faintly discernible flesh behind. There were even 2 red dots. Do not look at indecent things. Operational error. Xiao Bai was still as good-tempered as ever, and did not even reprimand her. With a turn of his hand, he placed her on the bed, and then returned to the back to change his clothes. Though Zhu Yao's face was filled with guilt, he might as well have scolded her instead. According to the reliable information she had recently received, she seemed to be a phoenix. This made her feel very gratified. At the very least, she was not a chicken. However, she was a little different from regular phoenixes. The feathers on other phoenixes were fiery red, while she was multicolored, and her entire body was covered in mixed feathers. And she did not have tail feathers. Zhu Yao stuck out her buttocks and glanced at the place where her tail feathers should have been, only to find that there was only a patch of light. She let out a long sigh. Don't be sad, it will grow back. Xiao Bai came out after changing into a set of blue clothes. He comfortingly stroked her head, and the expression he was looking at her with was especially sorrowful. Hugging her into his embrace, he leaned his head on her wings, and said with a sunken voice, I'm sorry, little sister. Second brother did not protect you well. I'm the one who's naked. What are you feeling sad for, hey? Furthermore, she did not have any thoughts of becoming a bird, so it did not matter even if she was missing a few feathers. Are you awake? Auntie floated in with a smile like a chrysanthemum flower. Only after Zhu Yao was brought back for more than 10 days, did she find out that Auntie, the patriarch of the Phoenix clan, was called Qianyu. It seems like you're in good spirits, little seventh. Chick. Hello, Auntie. Zhu Yao patted her wings, as a form of greeting. Qianyu's smile became even more brilliant. Placing the fruit platter in her hands on the table, she took out one and passed it over. Little seventh, come have a fruit. Chick. Thank you. Zhu Yao did not hesitate and bit it over. After eating it, she simply felt a surge of heat rising from her body, stopping at her dantian. In an instant, her entire body was filled with energy. She finally understood why Xiao Bai said she was weak back then. Phoenixes were of the god race, and she was weak to the point where she did not have a single strand of godly energy. So obedient. Auntie Qianyu praised. She carefully glanced at Xiao Bai, who had a gentle expression at the side, and said in a seemingly casual manner, I wonder what's going on in this world right now. I heard that the ice in the extreme south is getting more and more severe. Chapter 182. Xiao Bai's hand, which was currently stroking Zhu Yao's feathers, paused, and the gentleness on his face faded a little. Xiao Bai, you know, little six. It has nothing to do with me. Xiao Bai suddenly interrupted her words, and glanced at Qianyu lightly. Whether he returns or not, it is the patriarch's decision. Qianyu was at a loss for words, and the expression on her face changed several times. After a long time, she chuckled and said, Little seventh has been back for so long, but she still hasn't seen her sixth big brother. Are you really not going to let her see him? Xiao Bai frowned. His face was filled with disapproval. Holding on to the fruits, he fed Zhu Yao one after another. He did not reply either, as though he was silently protesting. The word oppression seemed to be floating in the air. Zhu Yao silently swallowed the fruit. Her head was filled with cold sweat. Ha! Even if the two of you are quarreling, there's no need to drag me into it. If you continue to feed me, I'll be stuffed. Besides, who was that little six? He had actually angered the good-tempered Xiaobai. What a genius! After waiting for a long time for him to reply, Xianyu gradually became disappointed. After a while she sighed and said, "Forget it, let little seventh meet her eighth brother. He has already come out." Xiaobai did not object this time. Not long after, a tall man walked in. He had a muscular body and was carrying a 3 or 4-year-old child in his arms. As he walked, he smiled and greeted, "Hello, little seven." "Hello, Xiaosan." Zhu Yao faced this person who was said to be her third brother, and once again waved her wings. Unfortunately, she could only let out a single cry. "Chick. Mother, second brother." Little three nodded at the two. He placed the child in his arms next to Zhu Yao. "Little seventh, this is your eighth little brother." Only then did Zhu Yao begin to size up this child. He was also a boy, and his little round face looked very cute. Currently, his face was stretched taut, and he did not speak even after being placed on the bed. Instead, he was seriously sizing up Zhu Yao, who was still in the form of a bird. The kinship of the phoenixes was based on the first person they saw after their nirvana. Every time a phoenix was reborn, the members of the same clan would sense it. This caused the relationship between their clans to be very complicated, and they generally had many mouths. There were 9 of them in the clan leader's family. The child in front of him should be the youngest phoenix. After the third brother put down the man, he seemed to have something to discuss with Xiao Bai and Qianyu. After saying a few words to them, he left. Only Zhu Yao and this person who was said to be her 8th little brother were left in the house, both of them looking at each other. A moment later, the child snorted coldly. "TCH. Was she being looked down upon? I don't like you." Little Wimp rolled his eyes at her. "So what if I can roll my eyes? I can even cross my eyes." She focused her eyes in the middle and glared back. Little Wimp's little face scrunched up, and he despised her even more. "You're so ugly." He was stabbed in the chest. "Not even a tail. She just hadn't grown it yet. You actually dare to run around naked. Where did he run off to?" She clearly suppressed him. "I don't want to play with you." He looked her up and down and added, "Naked thing." Zhu Yao simply felt as though a few knives were stabbing right into her heart. As expected, she hated spoiled brats the most. Every single one of them was the kind of person who would tear the roof tiles if not beaten. "Why aren't you talking?" Seeing that she did not reply, Little Wimp was enraged. She had to be able to talk first, little bastard. "Is it because you know you're too ugly and you don't dare to talk? Since you know you're ugly, then you can still be saved. The hell, you're not forcing me to make a move." Zhu Yao was enraged. Her claw reached into the bag at the side, grabbed out a handful of golden melon seeds, and scattered them under the bed. Little Wimp's eyes instantly widened, and he let out an excited cry. "Chick." In an instant, he turned into a golden phoenix the size of a table, and pounced down the bed to pick up the melon seeds. Zhu Yao coldly smiled. A fool that could be settled with a handful of melon seeds. What qualifications did he have to despise her? Wait a minute. Why did she have to be calculative with a little wimp? What happened to her rationality as an adult? Zhu Yao hugged her head with her wings, and sank into a deep state of self-loathing. Seeing that the melon seeds on the ground were about to be picked clean by the little phoenix, she could not help but scatter another handful with her claw. "Ah, who can stop this sinful claw of mine?" Therefore, when the 3 adult old phoenixes came back, they saw such a scene of brotherly siblings. One was calmly scattering melon seeds on the bed, while the other was excitedly picking up melon seeds all over the floor. From that day on, Xiaoba never came to see her again. A mighty divine beast, a phoenix, was being fed by her like a little chick. Zhu Yao wondered if some sort of childhood trauma would be left behind when he regained his senses. However, Xiaobai did not blame her. He just smiled gently and helped her prepare 2 more bags of claws. As expected of a good brother, you're smart." Her tail feathers had yet to grow, and her body had yet to grow. More and more, she felt that she was no longer a phoenix, but a close relative of a phoenix, a chicken. "Every day I looked at the bare ground and felt a deep sadness." He didn't think so in the past, but now that 80 had mentioned it, he understood. She didn't dare to go out naked. That would make her feel very immoral. The more time passed, the more she missed her master. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to abandon her. However, it had been so long, yet she did not even see his shadow. Actually, ever since she saw that huge tree, she had faintly guessed that this place was not the divine realm. The reason why her master did not come looking for her was most probably because he could not reach this place in the first place. They were basically not in the same realm. Zhu Yao was a little sad. Other than the time her master ascended, this was the second time she was in a different world from him. And this time, she most probably could not even contact him. This was the first time Zhu Yao did not even know what a bug was, and she already had the mood to go on strike. Even Realm Spirit could take a vacation, so why couldn't she have a proper relationship? Bastard. Without her master, time passed so slowly. Ting. A conversation window suddenly appeared in front of her. Dear, are you still angry that time is too slow? Are you still lamenting about the pain of cultivation? Have you ever regretted your difficult cultivation experiences? Leave it to the time regulator. It will allow you to instantly experience the experience of 10,000 years and achieve the goal of rapid advancement. Completing cultivation in a second is not a dream, not a dream, not a dream. The important advertisement must be repeated 3 times. This time regulator is small, convenient, and easy to carry around. Once bound, it will be used for a lifetime. The entire body is traceless, and it can satisfy your various perverted needs. You can even choose your own time dimension when using it now. This opportunity does not come again. Please raise your little paws right now and quickly confirm. Option: 100 years or 1,000 years or 10,000 years or random. Where did this immoral advertisement come from? Do you believe that I will go to the Consumer Association to complain about you? And what the hell is this time regulator? Is it adjusting time? Have you watched too many sci-fi movies? Ting. The 10-second countdown for this option will begin. If the target does not have a choice, it will be randomly selected. 765 for. The hell, this is forcing me to buy and sell. Recalling the transvestite option back then, she hurriedly raised her wings and pressed towards the 100 years option. However, even after pressing a few times, there was no reaction. The number was still counting down. Are you kidding me? I basically can't choose. This is clearly a scam. 3, 2, 1. Ting. The time for choosing is up. Next, it will be randomly selected. P.S. This option uses the most advanced AI fingerprint recognition program and is able to recognize any kind of fingerprint. P.P.S. Friendly reminder, feathers cannot be recognized. Zhu Yao lowered her head and looked at her own wings. Flips table. Realm Spirit, come out. The scene in front of her flashed, and suddenly, a shaking interface similar to lottery appeared. 5 rows of wheels began to rotate. The first number that appeared was 0. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she would not be crossing 10,000 years in an instant. The second number was 0 as well. It seemed like at most 100 years had passed. That's good, that's good. The third number was 4. 400 years or so. Alright, I can endure it. The fourth number was 3. Zhu Yao had a bad premonition. The fifth number spun a few times, and then it firmly stopped at the number 8. Zhu Yao instantly felt like taking revenge on society. She took a deep breath, and let her think of a method to vent her anger. The hell? Damn bitch, who the hell are you scolding? You're messing with me, right? If you have the guts, come out. I will send you back to your mother's womb for a deep transformation for free. Ting. The scene flashed, and the wheels disappeared. The surrounding scenery, however, began to change like a flashing lantern. As though a fast-forward button had been pressed, different figures shuttled past. It became faster and faster, and not long later, she could only see the colors of flowing lights. This was the time adjustment. The flowing lights continued for about half a minute, and then they began to slow down again. Gradually, she could see human figures. Familiar and unfamiliar people came and went in the house, and Xiaobai's figure was the most common. In the end, it finally stopped. 438 years had passed just like that? When she regained her senses, she and Xiaobai were the only two people in the room. He still looked the same, though there was a hint of maturity between his brows. However, he still had a gentle look, as he gently coaxed her. Little sister, this is very simple. As long as you follow the method I tell you, you will be able to transform immediately. Transform? Zhu Yao frowned. Suddenly, a large chunk of memories appeared in her mind, related to the past 400 years. She actually spent 400 years, and she was still a bird. The only difference was that her size was a little bigger, and her tail feathers had yet to grow out. Though she knew that the lifespan of a god was endless, her growth was a little too slow, wasn't it? Be obedient. Haven't you always wanted to change your feathers? Once you transform into a human, you can do so. Xiaobai was still coaxing her. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. What's with this tone that sounded like he was coaxing a child? Thinking about it carefully, those additional memories. All right, she had indeed lived her life very childish in the past 400 years. Oh, tell me again. How do I transform? The only thing that made her happy after transmigrating through time was that she could now speak. Seeing that she had relented, Xiaobai heaved a sigh of relief. He once again told her the method of transformation, and even the method to circulate godly energy. He held onto her claws and demonstrated it. Zhu Yao carefully sensed it, and realized that this method was similar to the way she transformed into a dragon back then. From the looks of it, she did have some experience. Thus, she took 2 steps forward, arrived at a slightly spacious area, took a deep breath, and began to circulate the already thick aura in her body. In an instant, her entire bird body emitted out a red light, enveloping her entirely within it. Slowly, she took the form of a human. About an hour later, that red light slowly dimmed, revealing a woman dressed in a rainbow-colored feather robe. Zhu Yao moved her arms and legs. That robe moved along with her. As though it was flowing, it looked extremely beautiful. How is it? Zhu Yao could not see her own appearance, so she could only wave her hands at Xiaobai. Do I look good? I mean, you look good. Xiaobai smiled like the warm sun in winter and nodded. Zhu Yao was satisfied. Phoenixes were the most beautiful birds, and she believed that her human form would not be that ugly either. Especially her robe, it should be formed from her feathers. In the past, when she was covered in feathers, she did not think much of it, but now that she had transformed into a robe, it was unexpectedly beautiful. Zhu Yao pulled up the corner of her robe and lowered her head to look in front of her. She was very satisfied, and then, she turned her head to look behind her. What she saw was, between the rainbow-colored feathers, 2 snow white. It must be a misconception. Thus she closed her eyes, and then opened them. A moment later. Ah! She let out a scream that resounded through the clouds. Why was her back naked? And it was even at her buttocks area. Were the clothes of the ancient times this fashionable? Suddenly, she recalled her missing tail feathers. She had actually been running around with her buttocks bare the entire time. Little sister. Xiaobai was shocked by her sudden scream. As he asked, "What's wrong?" His heart ached as he carried her into his embrace, and his line of sight naturally landed on. "Let me go." Zhu Yao pushed him away in hindsight, and with her hands behind her back, she held on to the 2 bare buttocks that were being blown by the wind. Little sister. Xiaobai's face instantly turned as red as blood. She could not move forward, nor could she not move forward. You saw it, right? You must have seen it, right? Although she did not have much integrity left, she really could not bring herself to run around naked. Don't stop me, I want to die. Cuckoo. Xiaobai coughed a few times, as he forcefully calmed himself down. However, his face was still burning hot. Reaching out his hand, he chanted an incantation, materializing a long white cloth, and passed it over. First wrap yourself with this. Your tail feathers have yet to grow out, so with your feathers, it will naturally. Cuckoo, don't worry, no one else saw it. Didn't you see it already? Zhu Yao grabbed onto that piece of cloth, and wrapped it around her waist. She tied a total of 3 knots, and only let go after tying it tightly. Xiaobai sized her up for a moment, and the redness on his face receded. Recalling how she was jumping about earlier, he could not help but turn around, and his shoulders trembled violently. If you want to laugh, then laugh. Zhu Yao glared at him. Ha 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 ha. Xiao Bai really did not hold back and began to laugh, as he hugged his stomach with one hand. She had simply forgotten that she did not grow out her tail feathers. Laughing like that, he was not giving her any face at all. Is it really that funny? Zhu Yao instantly gritted her teeth a little, and coldly snorted. I have seen your buttocks before as well. Xiao Bai was startled. Stopping his laughter, he looked over. Not only were your buttocks naked, your entire body was covered in rags back then. I saw everything. Zhu Yao said proudly. Although you were just a little wimp back then, we're even now. Little kid? Xiao Bai's eyes shone for a moment, and a hint of something flashed past his face. Very quickly, it disappeared, and what replaced it was a hint of disappointment. Sighing lightly, he said a moment later. Little sister, stop spouting nonsense. How could you possibly have seen how I looked like when I was young? You spent 2,000 years to come out of the egg. Who's spouting nonsense with you? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. In any case, it was something that had happened before, so she wasn't afraid of him knowing. Back then, you were still so young, and I was still in the egg. Oh right. I was the one who brought you out of that damned place. He suddenly widened his eyes, and his face was filled with disbelief. You remember? Amen, Zhu Yao nodded. Xiao Bai suddenly smiled. In an instant, it was as though 100 flowers bloomed, and the sky was filled with multicolored light. Zhu Yao was an anomaly among the phoenixes. Phoenixes were born with the ability to transform, and she was the only phoenix who managed to successfully transform after 400 years. This made Zhu Yao, who had always had the support of cheats, and cultivation was completely effortless, depressed. She felt the sour feeling of going from a top student to a bottom student. And the first time she transformed, her moral integrity had already fallen to the ground. She really did not have much expectations for her appearance after transforming, to the point that when she saw her face in the mirror for the first time, her jaw had almost dropped from shock. She wondered if it was because Realm Spirit had added all of her beauty value into this avatar after her multiple rebirths. Her appearance in the mirror was simply so beautiful that no one could look straight at her. Every single part of her seemed to have been meticulously drawn out. A little more would be too full, and a little less would be too lacking. It was perfect to the point of perfection. Zhu Yao instantly felt that the moral integrity that she had lost in the morning had been picked back up. She could not help but sigh at how good the genes of the phoenixes were. Little sister, are you done? Xiao Bai pushed open the door and entered. His smile was filled with gentleness. It's time for us to leave. To where? Zhu Yao glanced at him, and then immediately shifted her line of sight back to the mirror. Why was she so beautiful? Naturally, to the Terrace of Revelations. Why don't you want to go? Xiao Bai asked. I don't. Zhu Yao raised the mirror in her hands. Right now, I just want to quietly admire myself for a while. Xiao Bai shook his head. Stepping forward, he took away the mirror in her hands and grabbed onto her hand. His smile grew even gentler. Little sister, be obedient. After a member of the Phoenixes transforms, they must head to the Terrace of Revelations to receive the inheritance. This concerns your future, so you must go. And even if little sister doesn't look at the mirror, I'm still the most beautiful phoenix in this world. Zhu Yao glanced at his face, which carried a 5-star gentle light effect, and then turned to look at herself in the mirror. In an instant, she felt that she had fallen by a few levels. As expected, she wanted to ruin his face. Inheritance? Zhu Yao pondered for a moment. Isn't inheritance something that comes with the bloodline, something that's present at birth? Xiao Bai lightly tapped on her forehead. Who told you that inheritance comes from the bloodline? No matter if it's the dragon, phoenix, or Qilin, if they want to receive the inheritance, they must head to the Terrace of Revelations and inherit the heavenly Tao. And this procedure, her teacher had never taught her before. Second elder brother didn't bring you there before because you were still too young. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to endure the power of the heavenly Tao. Xiao Bai continued to explain. Now that you're able to transform, naturally, you shouldn't delay it any longer. As long as you receive the inheritance, the potential in your body will be stimulated, and at that time, you will be able to know your true attribute. Attribute? Zhu Yao caught on to a term that she did not understand. Little sister, don't you realize that your original form is different from ours? My butt is bare. A hint of awkwardness flashed past Xiao Bai's face. I'm not talking about that. Although the phoenixes are born with the ability to control fire, they still have another inherited attribute. Other than fire, it's one of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, and earth. Oh, she didn't understand. Then what's your attribute? Xiao Bai smiled without saying a word. He did not continue to explain either, and pulled Zhu Yao out of the door. Rather than explaining, it would be better to bring her there to take a look. Zhu Yao did not have any objections, and followed him out of the door. However, she faintly felt that the 2 words Terrace of Revelations sounded a little familiar. Yet she could not recall where she had heard it before. She thought that the Terrace of Revelations would be very far away. Yet, Xiao Bai simply brought her and flew towards the top of the gigantic tree. After flying for more than an hour, they had already flown to the top of the gigantic tree that was hidden above the layer of clouds. A white lotus the size of 3 football fields was floating above, and its petals were flashing with rainbow-colored flowing lights, as it revolved around the lotus at the center. The lotus platform at the center was already filled with people, and a rough count of over 100 of them. Zhu Yao was stunned. The entire Phoenix clan was here. Was this inheritance really that important? Xiao Bai brought her and landed at the very center. Standing in front of them were Qian Yu and 7 familiar-looking people. 4 men and 3 women. She flipped through her 400 years of memories, and only then did she recognize that they were all her cheap brothers and sisters. However, the man next to Old 8 was a little unfamiliar. He was about the same height as Xiao Bai, yet he was not as fair and clean as the others. His skin was a healthy wheat color, which made him look more masculine than the others. She suddenly had a feeling that she had seen him somewhere before. Seeing her appear, Old 8 was the first to walk over. In these 400 years, he had already grown from a little wimp to a teenager. Bare buttocks, you're here? Zhu Yao staggered, as she turned to glare at him. As expected, his mouth was still so smelly. It was because of his curse that she was unable to grow out her tail feathers. You're the one with bare buttocks. Your entire family is bare buttocks. His entire family seemed to include her. Hurry, accept the inheritance. Little 8th, however, did not sense her resentment in the slightest, as he said with an excited look. Hurry and accept it. Let me see what kind of bird you are. Why did she feel like he was scolding her? And what kind of bird are you? Little 8th proudly raised his head, patted on his chest, and said, My attribute is wood. I'm a wooden bird. Oh. Zhu Yao swept a meaningful glance at him, and intentionally paused for a second at a certain spot. So you have a wooden bird, Little 8th. Although he did not understand, why did he feel like 7th elder sister was scolding him? Little 7th. Qian Yu walked over as well, and patted on Zhu Yao's head. She looked at her with a gratified look. You finally know how to take on a human form. Mother heaved a sigh of relief as well. Come, you have yet to meet your 6th elder brother. He's here. She pointed to the wheat-skinned man at the side. Your 6th elder brother specially rushed back to see your inheritance. Zhu Yao turned to look at the man at the side. His smile was extremely bashful, yet it carried a hint of an expression that she could not understand. It looked as though he was excited, but also as though he was feeling guilty. The corner of his lips twitched, and a moment later he spoke up. 7th sister, all right, it's about time. Xiao Bai suddenly took a step forward and interrupted his words. Pulling Zhu Yao over, he said, Little sister, go. His eyes intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Little 6th, faintly carrying a hint of warning. The other party's clear eyes instantly darkened. Zhu Yao was seemingly being pushed forward, and she felt a little strange about Xiao Bai's attitude. After flipping through those fast-forwarded memories, she finally recalled who this 6th elder brother was. Speaking of which, he was the first person she met after her reincarnation. That's right, he was that little wimp who directly pushed her onto the ground, causing her to give birth prematurely. Chapter 183. At the very center of the open heavens stage, there was a circular boundary, and a formation-like diagram was carved there. The moment she stood on it, a white light shone, as though some sort of mechanism had been activated. 3 cubes that looked like screens of light appeared in front of her, and patterns could be faintly seen on them. The first one had a diagram of a dragon, the second a diagram of a phoenix, and the third a diagram of a qilin. It seemed like every single one of them corresponded to a race. Zhu Yao could not help but look at the clouds on the rightmost empty ground. The fourth screen of light was currently rising at an extremely slow speed. However, it was pitch black in color, as though its battery had been depleted. The diagram on it could not be distinguished anymore. Zhu Yao faintly felt that it should be the position of the black tortoise. Little sister. Xiaobai stood next to the second screen of light and waved his hand at her. Come, put your hand in, and it'll be done. I can accept the inheritance just by putting my hand in? Xiaobai nodded. That's right, don't be afraid. Zhu Yao did not expect the procedure to be so simple, and without saying another word, she placed her hand in. All of the phoenixes present held their breaths, as they excitedly waited for the first egg-born phoenix in the history of the phoenix race to activate its second attribute. 15 minutes later. Nothing happened, and most likely there wasn't enough time. 30 minutes later. There was complete silence. Perhaps the way she extended her hand was incorrect, and it flipped over. An hour later. A cold wind whistled past. Zhu Yao. Second brother. Mn. Can I really receive the inheritance like this? Yes. I'm not well educated, don't lie to me. Before Zhu Yao could make sense of the situation, a commotion suddenly broke out, as various guessing voices sounded. How is this possible? She's actually unable to accept the inheritance. Isn't this too unbelievable? That's right, the inheritance stone actually has no reaction at all. Could it be that she's not a phoenix? Even Patriarch Qianyu was dumbfounded as well. Taking 2 steps forward, she stared at Zhu Yao for a moment. How is this possible? Thus, she pulled Zhu Yao's hand and placed it into the screen of light, yet there was still no reaction at all. Could it be that egg-born phoenixes were unable to accept inheritances? There weren't many phoenixes in the clan, and it was impossible for their numbers to increase, so when they saw a phoenix being born in an egg, they were shocked. That was why she was so happy. But if an egg-born phoenix couldn't accept the inheritance, that would mean that the divine power would be greatly reduced. Then what would be the point of increasing the number of people? Patriarch. Finally, a clansman stood up with an agitated expression. What's going on? The inheritance stone did not respond at all. Wasn't this person from the same clan? Patriarch, please give us an explanation. We can't let people from other clans sneak into our midst. The moment his words fell, the other clansmen immediately responded. Their eyes, which were looking at Zhu Yao with an exceptionally gentle gaze earlier, were now filled with disbelief. Instantly, it became sharper. Qianyu was suddenly caught in a dilemma. The Protoss had always been united, but how united were they? They would be more xenophobic and value their own race. They would not tolerate other races. The voices of opposition grew louder and louder, gradually getting out of control. Zhu Yao was also stunned by this sudden turn of events. Was it that serious if it wasn't a phoenix? But her original form seemed to be a bird. If she wasn't a phoenix, then what was she? Everyone calmed down. Qianyu tried her best to explain. Little Seven's original form was that of a harpy. The harpies aren't necessarily the phoenixes either, someone in the crowd retorted. Yes, maybe she's not even a god. That's right. She's just standing there, and the other inheritance stones aren't reacting either. Chase her out. That's right, we definitely can't let her stay on the tree. Chase away the foreign races. The phoenixes grew more and more agitated. Every single one of them looked at Zhu Yao with eyes that were about to spit out flames. Zhu Yao was speechless. She instantly felt as though she had crossed over to the Angry Birds game, and she was the pig that was being beaten. Enough. Seeing that the phoenixes were getting more and more agitated, a furious roar suddenly resounded, and an endless pressure pressed towards the crowd of birds. Xiao Bai's thick brows furrowed tightly, his expression was ice-cold. Following a loud phoenix cry, a gigantic sky-blue illusory image of a phoenix materialized behind him. The illusory image glowed with a watery light, as though it was formed by the condensation of water. However, it carried an oppressive aura, causing people to feel a chill just by looking at it. No matter if she has an inheritance or not, she's still my seventh sister. Does anyone have any objections? His voice was as cold as ice. The illusory image in the sky swept its eyes across the crowd, and the entire place instantly became silent. Even Zhu Yao was dumbfounded by his tyrannical and cool actions. This was a blatant threat. She never expected that Xiao Bai, who had always been soft and gentle, would actually get angry. This guy, he couldn't be a Siscon, right? That's pretty amazing. But just what kind of creature was her avatar this time? She could sense that the aura in her body was exactly the same as when she was a dragon back then, and it was much stronger than before. This should be the so-called godly energy. This proved that she should be a god, but why was the inheritance of the phoenix race useless for her? Zhu Yao turned around and carefully inspected the 3 inheritance stones. They were squarish and very orderly, and other than the slightly different patterns on them, the rest of them were exactly the same. Even the button at the side, fuck. Where did that button at the side come from? Zhu Yao squatted down to take a closer look. There were even words on the button, Phoenix Inheritance. Zhu Yao looked to the side, and as expected, the other inheritance stones had the same button as well. However, the words on them were different. On the left was written, Dragon Inheritance, while on the right was written, Qilin Inheritance. What did the word on it mean? She looked at the black tortoise inheritance stone at the very back. It was already dark to the point where she could not see any words clearly, causing her to be unable to confirm if there was a button with the same word on it. Could it be that she had made a mistake earlier? Should she press the button to test it out? No. Based on her past experiences of being cheated inhumanely, things were not that simple. She definitely could not make a cheap move. It was best to maintain a safe distance. Little sister, don't be afraid. Stand behind me. Xiao Bai, who had just thrown a tantrum, pulled her out of worry, wanting to protect her behind him. Zhu Yao, who was currently moving in the opposite direction, could not stop herself, and due to the reaction, she fell straight towards the inheritance stone behind her. She faintly heard a beep. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, as she raised her middle finger with a what the hell expression. In an instant, the entire inheritance stone emitted out a fiery red light. It illuminated the entire terrace of revelations. The inheritance stone lit up. Little Eighth exclaimed. Everyone turned their heads in shock. However, their eyes were still filled with doubt. It's finally lit up. Qianyu heaved a long sigh of relief. I knew it. As expected, Little Seventh is still a child of the Phoenix race. Zhu Yao expressed that she did not want to retort. Xiao Bai, hurry and come over. Don't affect Little Seventh from receiving the inheritance. Xiao Bai hesitated for a moment, before smiling at Zhu Yao. After telling her not to be afraid, he walked down. Zhu Yao instantly felt a little stifled. Can I go down as well? Why did she feel as though a great disaster was about to befall her? The inheritance stone turned even redder, and Zhu Yao faintly felt the godly energy in her body beginning to swell crazily. This feeling was a little similar to when she absorbed spiritual energy in the past, as it filled her entire body. When she could no longer contain it, the red light retracted, and she instantly returned to her original state. It was as though nothing had happened at all. It ended just like that? Why isn't there any manifestation? A voice of objection sounded from the crowd of phoenixes. Could it be that she doesn't have any potential? As expected of an egg, she actually doesn't have any potential that can be stimulated. Such a phoenix race sure is shameful. Can a phoenix that's born from an egg still be considered a phoenix? I think so. If you're born from an egg, you should scram out of the phoenix realm. Hey, do you want to attack me? Scram out of the phoenix realm. And I'm even going to scram out of the entertainment circle. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Though she knew that everyone had a xenophobic mentality, this crowd of phoenixes were really something. In the beginning, they despised her for not being a phoenix, and after receiving the inheritance, they began to doubt her background. She really wanted to slap their faces. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth, and subconsciously patted the inheritance stone next to her. Just as she was about to leave, suddenly, a loud boom resounded. A bolt of heavenly lightning descended from the sky, and directly struck her head, charring her black. Zhu Yao puffed out a mouthful of white smoke, and turned to look at the inheritance stone. Didn't I just pat you once? Is there a need to take revenge like this? Immediately after, a long cry resounded through the clouds. Zhu Yao reflexively turned to look, only to see a gigantic lightning phoenix charging straight into the clouds. In an instant, the weather changed, sand and stones flew, and the sky, which was still brightly illuminated earlier, instantly turned as dark as night. As the clouds rumbled, several bolts of lightning were currently rolling and extending endlessly in the sky, as though they would strike down at the very next moment. Lightning. Lightning attribute. It was unknown who suddenly called out. The angry birds who were still discussing earlier were instantly filled with disbelief and fear. How is this possible? There's actually a lightning attribute. Zhu Yao looked at the familiar-looking phoenix in the clouds. Wasn't that her sword intent? When did it become so huge? She habitually raised her hand to circulate the energy in her body, and summoned back her sword intent. The lightning phoenix let out a long cry, and charged straight down. Bringing along a sky filled with lightning sparks, it flew straight towards the terrace of revelations they were at. Hence, lightning sparks rose in all directions, and crackling lightning bolts instantly filled the entire terrace of revelations. The faint smell of roasted birds drifted in the air. Other than the 10-feet radius where she was standing, there were charred human figures everywhere, and miserable cries could be heard. "I my buttocks. My tail feathers are burnt. My pants, it hurts. Why does lightning only strike people's buttocks?" Zhu Yao, was there any use in apologizing now? Hence, what was supposed to be a good inheritance first became Zhu Yao's personal criticism session, and then it turned into a face-slapping session. Zhu Yao, with the identity of the first lightning phoenix since ancient times, slapped the faces of the various phoenixes. Furthermore, with the absolute advantage of burning 2/3 of her clansmen's tail feathers, she became the nightmare of all phoenixes. For the next few months, all of the phoenixes who saw her, without a single one of them, did not hold onto their buttocks, clamped their legs together, and ran away with small steps. Half of the clansmen had even turned into shut-in birds, swearing that before their tail feathers grew out, they would definitely not leave the house. Zhu Yao expressed deep regret towards this. If she had known, she would have burnt everyone's tail feathers. In any case, no one had any, so they would definitely get used to it. As expected, she was still too kind. Regarding her mistake of harming the phoenix, clan leader Qianyu expressed that she still had to be punished. However, she was strongly opposed by the members of the sister complex. The first manifestation is hard to control in the first place. Little sister has already done very well. In any case, his tail feathers were not burnt. Qianyu was unable to refute. Hence, she raised the second question, regarding control. Zhu Yao's true attribute had already been stimulated. How was she going to control her own power, and skillfully use it? A lightning attribute phoenix had never appeared among the phoenixes before, so no one knew how to control it. If she were to lose control of her manifestation once again, the feathers of the phoenixes would be in danger. This was a problem that needed to be solved. In the end, the entire family of siblings came to a decision. Send her off to be apprenticed to a master. Since she was the only lightning phoenix, naturally, she had to be apprenticed to a powerful master as well. The far ancient high god of the extreme north. He was still the last ancient god in the world. He had never appeared in the world for 100,000 years, yet his legend still circulated in the world. More importantly, he was the only god in the world who was proficient in the lightning arts. When Zhu Yao heard that she was going to be sent off to be apprenticed to a master. In the beginning, she rejected it. She was already afraid of being tricked by a certain master. She simply did not have the interest to develop a second time. However, her rejection was futile. This time, even her revolutionary comrade, Xiaobai, was standing in the opposing camp. He had already made up his mind to pack her up and send her off to the extreme north. What happened to the promised sister complex? Little sister, don't worry. The far ancient high god is the god with the highest cultivation in the world. Xiaobai tried his best to persuade her. Oh. Zhu Yao expressed her doubts. He's the only ancient god who did not fall, and his mystic arts are powerful. Oh. I have already sent him a message a few days ago, and he agreed to take you in as his disciple. He will definitely treat you well. Oh. I have known him for many years, and he will personally teach you. I'm at ease as well. Oh. And that place is the furthest away from the Devil's Sealing Grounds, and also the safest place. Xiaobai. Zhu Yao raised her head. Amen. If I succeed in becoming his disciple, will the phoenixes get a cut? Nope. Then I'm not going. Little sister, be obedient. No. Zhu Yao tightly held onto the door. I'm not well educated, don't lie to me. Masters were always used to trick their disciples. She had experience with this. Second elder brother will visit you often. Who wants to see you, you traitor? I don't want to be someone else's disciple. She only had a single master, and that was enough. Little sister. Xiaobai was a little helpless. His brows were already tightly knitted, but in the end he still could not bear to scold her. Why don't you first go take a look with me? If you don't like it, then you can come back? Zhu Yao gave him 2 words. Ho ho. You really think I'm a 3-year-old kid, huh? In the first place, it was already suffocating enough for her to come to this damned world alone, and now, she still had to take someone else as her master. No way, I'm not going to do it. If you continue to force me, this old lady will commit suicide and log into 8-0. Xiaobai had no other choice. He reached out his hand to stroke her messy hair. His eyes sank, and he lightly sighed. I'm sorry. Zhu Yao was startled. What? In the next instant, she simply felt something directly entering the center of her brows. Her vision darkened and she fainted. The hell? To think that I trusted you so much. You actually played dirty. Just you wait. Zhu Yao had always felt that the so-called extreme north was definitely a cold place. Even if it wasn't filled with glaciers, at the very least, it would occasionally snow. Hence, when she was woken up by the heat, she could not even react to where she was for a moment. It was a tree, a normal tree. She was currently lying under the shade of the tree, and there were even huge fruits on the tree. Furthermore, they were swaying about, and they seemed to be about to fall. The hell, that's a durian. Zhu Yao quickly crawled up, and with a bang, that swaying durian stuck close to her back and fiercely nailed onto the ground. Zhu Yao patted on her chest. Fortunately, she woke up in time, and her face was not disfigured. Just who had such taste, to place her under a durian tree? You're awake? Suddenly, a slightly hoarse male voice sounded. Zhu Yao looked around, yet she did not see a single human figure. Here, here. She looked towards the voice and lowered her head, only to see that the durian that had fallen earlier was currently trying its best to pull itself out from the soil. Most probably it had fallen too hard, as even after pulling for a long while, it still could not get up. It then pointed at her with its stem. Little lady, help me out. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Why the hell was there a creature like a durian spirit in this world? Who are you? Me. When the durian heard this, it instantly proudly straightened its spiked club-like body. I'm a disciple of the far ancient high god, Durian Boy. Far ancient high god? Did Xiaobai really send her here? Lowering her head, she glanced at the durian. You wanted to smash me earlier? The durian was startled. Its body, which was still green earlier, revealed a hint of red. Cuckoo. Didn't I see that you slept for half a day? I just wanted to wake you up. Ho ho. Is there anyone who uses a method like smashing someone's face to wake them up? Thank you. No need to thank me. He actually shamelessly admitted it. The far ancient high god is summoning you. He lives on the mountain peak, as long as you first pluck. Don't go. Pluck me out first. Zhu Yao turned a deaf ear to it, and hurriedly left the durian tree. He's just that vengeful. Bite me then. Along the way, she saw various kinds of fruits, vegetables, flowers, and grass spirits. They seemed to be extremely curious towards her, as they watched her from afar. However, they did not approach her, and were even discussing while sizing her up. Look, there's an additional bird. I heard she was sent over by the Phoenix clan. The high god wants to take her as his disciple? The high god is going to take in a disciple? That's right. And it's a female disciple. How pitiful. I wonder how long she can last. I bet 7 days. I bet 3 days. I bet. What's with this suddenly opening of a bet? Was that high god that terrifying? Carrying a stomach full of doubts, Zhu Yao walked up the mountain peak, while pondering on how to explain things to that high god. Tell her to return. Zhu Yao thought that the place where a high god lived, even if it wasn't luxurious, it shouldn't be too shabby. But at the very least, it shouldn't be too shabby. But he never expected that when he climbed to the top of the mountain, he would see an empty grassland. Not to mention a house, there wasn't even a thatched hut. And at the center of the field stood a person. He was dressed in white, and his long hair reached the ground. His back was facing her, and his figure looked a little familiar. His entire body was faintly emitting out a gentle radiance. Looking at him from afar, one would feel a sense of deep veneration. He must be the far ancient high god Xiaobai spoke of. Greetings to the far ancient high god. Zhu Yao obediently bowed. Since you're from the south, I'll give you the surname of Nan. You. Nan. Changing my nationality in such a short period of time, is it really all right? Chapter 184. Yu Gu turned his head and looked at the claw she was patting on his shoulder. Frowning, he pushed her down. Naturally, I'm your master. It seemed like he had to properly teach his disciple the rules. A white light condensed in his hand, and he pointed it at the center of her forehead. Xiaobai mentioned to me that your mind wasn't firm enough, so I… The divine sense he condensed was bounced back again. You have another mark on your body? Yeah. Didn't you leave it behind? How could he have forgotten about this? No matter. Yu Gu didn't mind it in the slightest. This imprint is weak, I'll help you dispel it. No. Zhu Yao panicked and took a step back. Since you've already entered my sect, you naturally can't carry someone else's mark. Zhu Yao reached out her hand to hold her forehead. No matter what, this imprint cannot disappear. Otherwise, I'll fight you to the death, do you believe me? She still hadn't figured out what was going on, but this was the only mark of recognition between her and her master. Yu Gu frowned. Seeing her uncompromising look, he had no choice but to give up. He scanned her from head to toe and sighed. Since that's the case, I'll do as you say. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. I heard from Xiaobai that you're not only an egg, but also a lightning phoenix? I think so. Actually, she wasn't sure whether she was a phoenix or not. Yu Gu, however, frowned even deeper. His expression was solemn. A moment later, he solemnly said, the things in this world have their own destinies, and lightning was born to sweep away the filth of this world. Since you are of the lightning attribute, you should prepare yourself. What did that mean? However, he did not continue to explain. Instead, he reached out to touch the top of her head. You will know in the future. Go down first. I will teach you the lightning demon restraining technique. Zhu Yao nodded a little confusedly. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, she was stopped by him again. Wait. Yu Gu sized her up from head to toe, and his line of sight stopped at her forehead. Frowning, with a twist of his hand, a writing brush appeared out of nowhere. Then he raised his brush and drew something on her forehead. Only then did he say with a satisfied expression, all right, you may leave. In the beginning, Zhu Yao did not know what he had done. After walking away, Zhang Xian summoned the water mirror to take a look, only to see a ling-shaped symbol on his glabella. He couldn't wipe it off no matter how hard he tried. She thought that because Yugu did not leave his divine sense imprint on her, he used this as a replacement. He didn't pay much attention to it until she was on the forehead of various animals and plants on the mountain. When she saw the same mark on her claws, ears, and even her buttocks, she instantly had the urge to destroy her ancestors. Flip's table. Was he treating her like a pet? Come on, cover and poke. Yugu, come out, let's talk about life. Yugu wasn't Yu Yan. This was the exact answer Zhu Yao obtained on the second day she arrived at the extreme north. It wasn't just that he had no impression of her. Even when she told him about the matters regarding Jade Forest Mountain and Lightning Divine Hall, he did not respond at all. But he didn't seem to have lost any of his memories. But she didn't know why, but he always gave her a familiar feeling. His words and actions were not much different from her master's. Aside from his temperament being gentler than her master's and not so cold at the slightest provocation, everything about him gave her the illusion that she was interacting with her master. You have to remember this, Yugu said with a stern look. Ah. Zhu Yao was startled. Earlier, her mind had been wandering. What did you say? Yugu frowned and his voice sank. The circulation method I demonstrated earlier. Oh, I didn't hear it clearly. Yugu sighed, and had no choice but to continue teaching her again. Zhu Yao attentively watched his actions, and the more she looked at him, the more she felt that he resembled Yu Yan. Every single one of his actions was unexpectedly familiar. Did you see it clearly this time? Yugu asked again. Ah. Sorry, her mind wandered again. No. Vietnam. Yugu's brows were tightly knitted. Turning around, he walked towards her. If you're so sloppy, how can you be successful in your studies? I know you feathered people have always been homesick, but since you've already entered the sect, you have to calm your heart. Your talent isn't bad, but unfortunately you have too many distracting thoughts. Actually, you're not allowed to deny it. Do you know your wrongs? Teacher. Amen? I know my wrongs, but can you not lecture the tree? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Looking at Yugu, who was facing the tree with an exasperated look, she was speechless. Earlier he was clearly walking towards her, so why did he suddenly turn and walk towards the tree at the side? Yugu was startled. A hint of something flashed past his face, but he immediately returned to normal. Turning around, he said with an even more stern look. Since you know your wrongs, then focus your attention and practice diligently. In the future, your teacher will only demonstrate the mystic arts once. Understand? Understood. Zhu Yao nodded, and continued with a darkened expression. But teacher, you're mistaken again. I'm on your right, and in front of you is a rock. Why did he think the rock and tree were her? Could it be? Teacher, your eyesight can't be bad, right? She swore that she definitely saw Yugu's expression stiffen for a moment. Nonsense. Your teacher is taking responsibility for your cultivation. I will demonstrate it once more, so watch carefully. Oh. Zhu Yao nodded, and was a little suspicious if she was seeing things. After all, an ancient god actually had bad eyesight. This was too unbelievable. However, the next few hours had truly verified her guess. 15 minutes later. Yugu, the art of restraining devils isn't about strength but restraint. Teacher, can you face me and speak? In front of you is a rabbit. 30 minutes later. Yugu, you must know that devils are the same as your race, they are undying. Teacher, I'm on your left, that's a tree stump. An hour later. Yugu, what you need to learn is the art of sealing, not the art of extermination. Teacher, I'm on your right, that's a pile of weeds. 4 hours later. Yugu, the key to this art is, teacher. Zhu Yao sighed deeply. I'm behind you. Cuckoo. A certain teacher faked a cough, and maintained the stern expression on his face. Your teacher has never been good at recognizing people. No. It's not that he doesn't recognize people. He's clearly blind. Hence, 6 hours later. You have to practice this set of sealing arts more, understand? Huh. Zhu Yao grabbed onto the person in front of her, and forcefully pulled him back, turning him around. Teacher, I'm here. A certain teacher's calm expression instantly collapsed. Disciple. It's best if your teacher helps you change your imprint. Scram. You've always wanted to give me a record just to recognize people? That's enough. For the first time, Zhu Yao realized that there was a type of face blindness, so it could be activated regardless of time, place, target, or even species. For example, her teacher. And in her first lesson, she spent it correcting Yugu countless times for recognizing people wrongly. And she slowly understood just what kind of world this was. Her guess was not wrong. This world wasn't the divine realm, and in the past, she didn't even know of the existence of this world. The god race that had long disappeared from the world existed here. And the devil race. However, the devil race was sealed by the ancient gods in an abyss in the extreme south. That place was called the Devil Sealing Abyss. And the duty of the 4 god races was to protect this seal, and seal back the devil race that occasionally escaped the seal. Zhu Yao did not know why Realm Spirit had her come here. And back then, when she was in Xian, he even specially had her appear in 2 avatars. Actually, with so many god races with explosive power here, there was basically no need for her, right? Zhu Yao's face was filled with doubt, and just as she was about to close the door and rest, raising her head, she saw Yugu, who was strolling around in her courtyard. Teacher? It's so late at night, and he's here to improve the relationship between teacher and disciple? Yugu was startled for a moment. Then he walked straight towards the stone table in the courtyard, and even affectionately reached out his hand to touch the surface of the table. Yugu, so you're living here. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She went out and pulled him back. Teacher, I'm here. Just how blind was he? Probably because he had been exposed so many times, there wasn't even a hint of awkwardness on his face. He lightly said, I was wondering why there was an additional straw cottage in this forest. It was built yesterday. Zhu Yao casually said, Teacher, do you want to come in and have a seat? Sure. Yugu really walked in. With a calm look, he looked at the furnishings in the house, hiding the look of a good teacher who was concerned about his disciples' daily life. After looking for a moment, he once again sat in front of the table. This isn't bad. How did you build this straw cottage? It's very simple. A few incantations and formations will do. This was what her master had taught her back then. Yugu nodded, and then asked her a few more questions, such as if there were any difficulties. Then he inspected everything he had taught her during the day. Zhu Yao answered them one by one. And then he once again supplemented and taught her a few new things. Zhu Yao faintly felt that his chatterbox was a little strange, until she had nothing else to say. Yugu, however, was still glued to the chair, refusing to leave. Teacher, don't you need to head back? Zhu Yao had no choice, and could only chase him away. Yugu lightly swept a glance at the chair beside her, and still casually said, This isn't bad. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, as she probed. Teacher, you can't be thinking of staying here, right? Since that's the case. Yugu nodded. Your master shall allow you this once. What's going on? I'm staying here. It can't be, where's your integrity? Her master was going to stay at her place. Teacher, I only have a single bed here. It's fine, your master doesn't despise it. I despise it. Zhu Yao crossed her arms in front of her chest. Even if they had the same face, she still had her principles, alright? She was her master's man in life, and her master's bird in death. It's getting late, it's time to rest. What? She was completely dumbfounded. She never expected that her new master would actually be so open-minded. In her mind, various restraining scenes and the 18 ways to guard against wolves instantly flashed. Don't force me to make a move. Yugu, however, calmly walked towards her, and then calmly picked her up, calmly threw her out of the room. I will teach you new mystic arts tomorrow. Rest early. Then with a bang he closed the door. Zhu Yao. She felt as though 10,000 horses were rushing past her. The hell, he actually did not recognize the wrong person this time. Wait, he actually came here to snatch her house? Hi God, do the other gods know that you're so shameless? Is there a need for that? Isn't it just a straw cottage? As a mighty god of the ancient era, It's not like he doesn't have a place to stay after snatching it from his disciple. He clearly, wait a minute. That durian spirit seemed to have mentioned that Yugu lived at the peak of this mountain. And other than a field of grass, there didn't seem to be any other buildings at the peak. He couldn't possibly not know how to build a house at all. And had always been camping outside, right? She suddenly recalled the first time she met him. He seemed to have really been standing in the grass, dozing off. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.